You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who are a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phones. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Financial Radio Network.
Today's broadcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of indeterminate length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Thursday, 31st day of March 2016. Happy Thursday. We made it over the hump day, Wednesday. We're in the downhill slide into the weekend. Everybody's been working for the weekend, and now it's just a day away. What are you going to do with your weekend? Tell me. I'd love to know. Use the chat box. Hey, speaking of the chat box, tomorrow, Peter Eliades, that's right, will be joining us along with Garrett Jones for the broadcast. He'll be on at 1 p.m. Eastern. So get logged in at noon, get your seat up front, close. We'll talk to Peter about his work. Here's a guy who went to Harvard. After Harvard, he wound up playing in a piano bar in New York. It's an amazing story. And then he stumbled across a book by J.M. Hurst and The rest is stock market cycle history. So I know a lot of you have been waiting a very long time for this to happen since we first brought up his name. Honestly, I'm trying to get familiar with his work. Many of you in the audience are already quite familiar with the work and are very excited that he's coming on the show. But it's a lock, aside from any kind of accident. He will be here tomorrow, 1 o'clock. You'll want to be fully logged in so that you have access to the chat box, because after our roundtable discussion, he will be taking questions from the audience. So be here tomorrow. Get logged in early, get a good seat, and then Peter will be with us 1 p.m. Eastern. Okay? I sent out an email last night, and I'll probably send out a reminder tonight. You do need to, we'll be showing charts during that portion of the show, just as I have a chart up right now of the S&P 500 Emini Futures. There's a couple ways to enjoy this radio program. One, you can just listen to the audio right from our homepage on your desktop, on your smartphone, on your tablet, or you can use one of the third-party apps such as TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, or from our homepage you can click that big microphone on the right-hand side. It'll take you to a page full of instructions. If you follow the instructions, basically where it says click here, and then fill in the blanks, takes about 30 seconds. You'll be registered for the entire month. Now, if you register today, that's only going to get you through today, because it just so happens that the day Peter's going to come on happens to be the first day of the month. So tomorrow morning, everybody will need, in fact, I'm going to do my best to remember, immediately following today's broadcast, I'm going to go out and change the link today, getting it ready for the month of April. So check back tonight, and if you click the link tonight, you may be able to go ahead and get registered for the month of April. Now, when you register, it does a couple things. Number one, it gets you a reminder email most days that says, hey, don't forget the show starts at noon in 1 hour. Click here when you're ready to join. So you don't have to go through that registration process every day. You just click the Join Now link each day in the little email. And by joining that way, not only do you hear what we have to say, but you also get to see what we have to show. So any charts that we show today, tomorrow, any day are available to you by simply logging in. And it gives you access to the chat box so that you can share your thoughts, ideas, opinions, ask questions. And tomorrow I'm sure you'll have questions for Peter, and he will be ready, and he's excited to be with us to meet what I referred to, I believe in the email last night, as the most financially savvy audience in talk radio. That's you guys. Now, yesterday we had a meltdown. The radio server kind of blew up, and my other computer, one blew up and the other melted down. I'm in the process of attempting to re-render yesterday's radio show and get it uploaded. Part 1 is already out on the YouTube page, but it's not displaying properly. I have another one uploading right now, and I think it's gonna work. So this afternoon, as soon as I finish with the radio program today, I'll not only get today's show uploaded, but I'll get yesterday's show, keep your fingers crossed, uploaded as well. All right, then we'll be all caught up. Now, if you don't know where to go to find those recordings of the radio show, it's easy to remember. It used to be very difficult. Now it's a piece of cake. emini.cfrn.net. That's all you got to remember. emini.cfrn.net. emini.cfrn.net. On that page, you'll not only find the radio shows, you'll find recap videos, you'll find charts, you'll find webinars, seminars, Q&A sessions. You just keep scrolling down, and just when you think you've got to the bottom of the page, you haven't. It grows and grows and grows. There's a standing challenge to anyone who can get to the bottom of the page. I'd love to know what that first post says. I've sat here on a couple of occasions, doggedly determined that I was going to get there. I gave up. It's a couple years of stuff. So anyway, let's look at the numbers. That's how we start the show out every day. The show about everything E-mini. We start with the cash markets. Dow Jones Industrials are up 31 points. NASDAQ is up 17, make that 18 points. S&P 500 is up 3 points. There's that 10-to-1 ratio I'm always talking about. S&P up 3, Dow up 31. Okay, 10, give a tick or two. Russell 2000 is up 5.5. There's no real mover or shaker in that bunch. The Russell, it's 0.5%. It's the best I got for you. Crude oil is up 30 cents. And gold is actually up nicely today, $8.50. As we turn to the Asian markets, the Nikkei is down 120. Shanghai is up 3 3/4. Hang Seng is down 26. And in Europe, color of the day there, with the exception of the MCX, and who knows what that is, DAX down 81, it's almost 1%. FTSE down 28, 0.5%. And the CAC 40 down 60 points, 1.25%. I forgot to mention, Ed will be with us today, our every other Thursday friend, Ed Corey, who once upon a time was a commercial crude trader. While we trade contracts of crude, he traded boatloads of crude. And he's also our resident Elliotician. So any questions that you have along those lines, get those ready. He'll be joining us today at 1 p.m. Eastern. Now that's today. Peter Eliades is tomorrow. Ed Corey is today. So those are the numbers. Europe is red. Asia is mixed, and the U.S. is all green. Even the TSX and the Merval. We do have some red in the Americas, Caracas, Chile, Bovespa, things we don't typically follow. Now, there's an upbeat tone to the market, I believe, because we're awaiting the jobs data tomorrow. We'll talk a little bit more about that later in the show. We're kind of hanging in between Janet Yellen's sort of dovish green light to stocks speech that she made the other day and the jobs data that's going to come out tomorrow, which of course Janet and all her buddies at the Fed will be watching very carefully and cautiously to determine whether or not we deserve an interest rate. What do you think? Treasuries are holding higher after data. We had some news out this morning. We had, I think we had payroll numbers yesterday. I'll have to bring up my economic calendar after we get the recap from Michael for the live trading room. I want to share this with you, this mind-blowing piece of news. It's not about Donald Trump for once. We're going to talk about something other than the Donald. You'll understand why I call it a mind-blowing piece of news. After veteran Tony Macy came back from Iraq in 2007, he was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. Now, that's a term that became popular in our vocabulary after Vietnam. maybe World War II, I don't know, but certainly after Vietnam, PTSD was a common term. Macy went to the VA on and off. He tried the standard therapy. I have no idea what that is. And then I just kind of fell off the radar, secluded, and did my own thing and got really dependent on a lot of different meds. This is Macy explaining what happened in a video that has been produced by the Multidisciplinary Association for Psychedelic Studies, also known as MAPS. All right? This is where the mind-blowing part comes. The retired sergeant then became part of a clinical trial organized by MAPS that was testing an unusual substance in an attempt to heal people who hadn't responded to traditional therapies for PTSD. That substance, MDMA, commonly referred to as Molly, is the pure form of the illegal party drug known as ecstasy. Now, I know none of you have ever been to a rave, but you might have seen a movie or perhaps a documentary about kids who go to raves and take ecstasy and how it turns them into these creatures that just want to love and cuddle and hug and smooch and, yeah, kind of the exact opposite of a soldier on the front lines in Iraq. You with me here? I told you, it's mind-blowing, all right? Most non-research substances that are sold as ecstasy or Molly are not actually pure MDMA and can be significantly dangerous. The trial pairs MDMA, the real stuff, the clinically created in the laboratory stuff, not in someone's bathtub laboratory, but in a real laboratory. They combine the MDMA with psychotherapy. One of the first things I said when it kicked in, this is Macy in the video talking, one of the first things I said when it kicked in was, this is what I've been looking for. I reconnected with myself and did a lot of internal work, and afterwards it was like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. Macy isn't the only one to find relief. One of the early studies conducted by MAPS showed that 83% of the study participants no longer showed signs of PTSD 2 months after treatment. And long-term follow-ups conducted an average of 4 years later showed that most of the benefits stuck. That was a proof of concept study with just 20 participants, all of whom had psychotherapy as well. 12 were given MDMA, 8 were given a placebo. 25% of those on the placebo got better too. Though small and preliminary, the results were encouraging enough to help lead to Phase 2 clinical trials. The second in the 3 sets of human trials required before the Food and Drug Administration will consider a new drug for approval. In March, MAPS announced that their Phase 2 clinical trials are coming to an end. These trials consisted of at least 8 studies that Brad Burge, the Director of Communications for MAPS, recently told Inverse treated 136 people using MDMA-assisted psychotherapy for PTSD. While most of these studies are still technically ongoing, the researchers are still collecting data and have not yet published their complete results. The final experimental treatment in all of these studies has already been given. Until the studies are published and analyzed, however, we won't really know how effective MDMA-assisted psychotherapy is compared to current treatments or a placebo. But according to MAPS, the organization is meeting with the FDA to plan phase 3 trials, which could be the final tests involving hundreds of people that are conducted before the FDA decides to approve ecstasy as a medication. Burge told Inverse that the organization believes they are on track for getting MDMA approved as a therapeutic treatment by as early as 2021. That's 5 years out. For someone who is suffering from this, that just might be too long, if you know what I mean. Phase 3 starts around 2017, and it will take 4 to 5 years to finish. So that will put it at early 2021 for FDA approval. MAPS is mostly raising money themselves to fund what they describe as a roughly $20 million plan to complete the trials, which are largely not of interest to pharmaceutical companies since the patent on MDMA has expired. See, there's no money in it for big pharma, so that means some significant fundraising is going to be required. The nonprofit currently has $9.1 million in assets. More than $5 million of that is a bequest from a longtime board member that has been earmarked specifically for the phase 3 trials. That still leaves a $15 million gap. Last year, MAPS raised a total of $3 million from 2,500 donors. It noted in its most recent annual report that substantially increasing our donor base will be necessary to move forward with phase 3 trials. Now, can you imagine you're the telemarketer who's part of the fundraising campaign to give ecstasy to soldiers with PTSD. Interestingly enough, because of our aging baby boomer population, who may have experimented with certain substances themselves back in the 60s, may see this as not so far out and as possibly a pretty smart way to help some people who served our country and are now in an awful lot of pain, mental anguish. So we'll see what happens. 5 years out is a long time. In the interim, I'm sure there will be laboratories that spring up that are quote unquote questionable, and hopefully no one gets hurt. This isn't the first time that psychoactive drugs have been used to treat problems, even alcoholism. LSD, there was a number of experiments done. I'm trying to think, there was a famous actor that was involved in those studies. He was an alcoholic, and after the psychedelic experience, many of the participants in that study no longer felt the compulsion to drink. So we'll see what happens. It's another interesting story to take to the dinner table tonight, because if you've got teenagers at your dinner table, trust me, they know what ecstasy is. They may not be taking it, and we'll hope that they don't, but because the ecstasy they take is not clinical grade and it could be very harmful, and you don't want your kids on drugs, period. But these soldiers coming back from these war zones, trying to reintegrate into society after the things they saw and the things that they did. I mean, I was in the military, but I was in a peacetime military. I did not see action, as they called it. In fact, my term came right after the Vietnam War, when everything was pretty quiet. We did a few war games, but that's all it was. And so to all those who have served our country bravely and have come back with physical scars, mental scars, my heart and my prayers are with you. I respect you, I salute you, and I thank you for your service to our country. And while this is not a conventional approach to helping you get better, I'm all for whatever works. So with that, Michael, will pass the mic to you. We'll pass you the big screen. And if you're ready, you can fire away with that recap of everything that happened in the live trading room today.
Not much happened, so
I understand.
stand by.
I won't stray too far.
All right. Here we go. I'll bring it over here.
Now I'll hit mute over here.
All right. Let's just make sure everybody's looking at the right thing. Yes. And here we go. Dun, dun, dun. Look at that color. All right. I'm going to hit record. All right. I'm going to hit record. You know, some days it turns right on, and some days it takes forever. Anyway, here we go. Today is Thursday, the 31st day of March, 2016. Let me just check on that, make sure. Yes, today is Thursday. So we have a partners meeting tonight at 9 p.m. for all people who are partners. If you are not a partner and you want to become a partner and you don't know what it takes to become a partner, then just let me know. Send us an email at support. I think my audio just locked up. All right, there we go. I think we're back. On. I was saying today is Thursday, the 31st day of March, 2016. Markets were just really, really strange today. Okay, we no longer have the Russell. All right, we're taking the Russell out of our lineup for right now. But today in the live trading room, you can see that we had a red day. Okay. We didn't make any money on the Russell. We didn't trade it. We lost 8 ticks on crude oil. We made 4 ticks on gold, and we lost 8 ticks on the YM. So we didn't get our goal for the day, and we took a total of 5 trades today. Only 5 trades. So we're going to end the month with $3,720 per contract. That's over 22 trading days, averaging $169 a day. If you were to apply a $5 commission to every trade we've taken, you'd have a net profit of $2,390, and with an $8 commission, you'd have a net profit of $1,592 on the month. Okay, we have traded 60 days so far this year, and that gave us a gross profit of $16,610. Okay, averaging $276 a day. That's where we stand on the day, on the week. On the day, on the month, and on the year. All right. So if you have not taken a free trial with us, just go here to CFRN.net. In the right-hand column where it says register for a free trial, put in your name, put in your email, click on register for a free trial. When you do that, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link. Okay, if you don't click that confirmation link, you will not get a free trial. Simple as that. All right. Now, the trades. Guys, we only had 5 trades today. The markets were just really sideways and messy today. Okay. Bob says he has no sound, but that was 8 minutes ago. Bob, everybody else has sound. Good result. Oh, okay. John, Joel. I'm just looking back. Okay. No questions have been unanswered. Do you think the market is waiting for tomorrow's big employment number? You know, John, the news events normally come out the first week of the month. Right now, they've all come out the last week of the month. So, it's all thrown off a little bit. And, if you look at the indexes from today, this is the Dow. So right here, it moved up and down a little bit for the first 10 or 15 minutes, and then it was just junk. Look at that. It's just nasty. And crude oil, we missed a couple of trades on crude here, but still the same type of thing with crude. If I were able to get going first thing in the morning, which today my computer actually shut right off. It shut right off at one point this morning. And I had to restart everything. So there were, I had some issues today. That's may also be why I only had 5 trades. But anyway, let's get to the gold. Yes, I had computer problems. All right, now on the gold, right in here, we missed the first trade right in here. Okay, at the open, it looks like there was probably a long trade right there that would have produced some results. A long trade right here that would have produced some momentum long trade right there that I missed. Break-even trade that I took, trade that I missed, and a trade that I took over here. We got 4 ticks profit on this trade. During the break, a short trade right there to capture that move down. Okay, on the YM, you see the YM is in place of the Russell right here. I do still have the Russell operating right now, and I'll bring it up for you in just a second here. Okay, here is the Russell. Now if we look at daily volume on the Russell, it's it's dropping off, and we'll see what tomorrow's like. Well, actually, we won't see what tomorrow's like, I don't think. But we didn't trade the Russell at all today. Okay, we didn't even look at it because I know that a bunch of the partners had it removed last night. All right, on the YM, we took a long trade right here, stopped us out, -8 ticks, and we took a break-even trade right there. And that was it. During the break, not really anything happening in there during the break. Okay, on the crude. Now the crude did move around a bit here during the break. We had a shorting opportunity there, and there, and there. And the momentum trade right there. So the crude did move around a bit here during the break. Even this morning it moved around some, but I ended up missing most of it because I had computer issues. I took the one trade right here, and I had slippage, and I got in up here, so I wasn't able to move my stop to break even. Then it stopped me out, and then it went up in the direction that we wanted it to go. Missed a trade here. Looks like I probably missed a trade right in here too. Right there. Okay. Missed a couple of them right in here. And then it had some trades during the break. On crude, I just had the one. Well, what did I have? I just had the one trade for -8 ticks this morning. Okay. The NQ. I didn't trade the NQ at all today. You can see how nasty and choppy it was. See, I had a slow grind up right here. But that's really hard to trade. Okay. During the break, you had a bounce off the BBC right there for about 10 ticks. Then I had another bounce right here for another 8 or 10. And the euro. Okay. The euro, we didn't have a single trade. I was just looking to see if there was any. We had some nice movement in here. There were a couple momentum trades in there, but nothing that I took. There's another momentum short right there. Long trade there, short trade there. And then came the break right in here during the break. Not really anything you can do in there. Had a long trade right there. That was about it. All right, and that was it. That's my recap. Let me bring up my sheet again. Okay, to take a free trial, go to CFRN.net. In the right-hand column, put in your name, put in your email, click on register for a free trial. When you do that, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click the confirmation link. Okay, if you don't click that link, you will not get a free trial. Let's go to my recap. Red day. It's our first red day since last month, I believe. Yeah, last month. The last day of last month was also a red day. Interesting. Okay, that sounds probably about right, John. Plus $12,230 for a $5 commission net so far. That sounds about right. So on the day, we were down 8 on crude. We were plus 4 on gold. We were down 8 on the YM. All right, on the month, plus 3,720. That's 22 trading days, 169 a day. On the year, plus 16,610. Over 60 trading days, averaging $276 a day. And John just gave me the numbers for the year so far. 12,230 divided by 60. With a $5 commission, we are up $12,230 a contract so far this year, net. That's the net number. And that averages out to $203 a day, net. Okay. All right. So with that, I am going to wrap things up and send it all back out to Phoenix. Phoenix, if you are ready. That's fabulous, Phoenix, Arizona.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, John.
We're ready. Guys, I was able to salvage, it looks like an hour.
Phoenix, I believe you just stepped in.
Oh, hang on. There we go. I was able to salvage, looks like about an hour and 19 minutes of yesterday's show. Part of that may have been after the screens froze up and went white. So I know we got the recap of the live trading room, and I'm thinking we probably got at least the first hour. So if you go and watch it, when I'm done with the radio show, I'm going to play it and scoot it up to the end, and then I'll make a notation letting people know that after this point in the video, there's nothing else, so don't bother sitting there waiting and wishing, because it's not going to happen. So, okay, Michael, recap of the recap was we just didn't have anything happen today, basically.
Yeah, we didn't get it today.
We didn't get it.
Today was one of those days.
Now, guys, that happens. That's part of the truth about trading. If you've never read the article I wrote, The Truth About Trading, just Google CFRN, The Truth About Trading, and you'll find it out there somewhere in the vast internet. And it talks about how you handle trades that don't work out and how you handle days that don't work out. They're all part of the business. You know, unlike the airline pilot who comes home from work and the wife says, how'd it go? And he says, I missed the runway by 100 yards. You know, there's no do-overs for the airline pilot or the surgeon or the engineer and the architect who are building, you know, the tallest building in the world, or any building for that matter. Everything has to be exact. In the business of trading, exact is being profitable 7 out of 10 trades. Think about that. That means 3 trades, the best of the best, have to eat dirt. Except they're the best of the best because they don't think of it that way. When they have a trade that is not profitable, they don't kick the dog, yell at the wife, or break the monitor. They just understand it's a cost of doing business. To be in this business, there are costs, as in any business. Whether it's the Subway sandwich shop where you got to buy the meats and the cheeses and the chips and the pop and pay the employees. This business has its expenses. They're minimal. Electricity, computer, data feeds. That seems to be the new common trade now, paying for data. Although Michael and I, you know, we're both certified TradeStation developers, so we're no strangers to paying for data. That's one of the reasons we became developers, so that we could get a discount on our data. And then we got spoiled for, I don't know how many years it's been, with 100% free data, courtesy of Daniels Trading. All clients of Daniels enjoyed free data for the longest time. And then the CME came in with their charge, and now ICE has come in with their charge. So I can see where this is headed. So it's going to just be another expense, like trades that get stopped out, or days that somehow just don't work out, okay? And the sooner you accept that and build that into your business plan and your trading plan, and really just accept it deep down inside, the sooner you can progress, move ahead, and actually build a trading business. If you unfortunately get hung up in that loop of endlessly chasing the next new indicator, oscillator, guru, chat room, whatever it might be, that promises success with no pain, then you're going to stay in that loop until you either come to your senses or all your money's gone. And then once all the money's gone, then you'll look back and go, I think now I see the error of my ways. So you're going to come to that realization sooner or later. Now, the fact that Michael and I have both been around the mountain, we did it the long way, we did it the hard way, we did it the expensive way. You can learn from our experience. If it were not true, we wouldn't tell you so. But we're telling you that you're never going to get that good that you don't get stopped out. And what is that good? What does that good mean? That good means you have a plan that gives you a definable edge, and you follow the plan flawlessly. That is perfection in trading. Doesn't mean all your trades are going to be profitable, but that is perfection in trading. So, with that, we'll take the screens back so Michael can go back to reading the funny papers or whatever he's busy doing.
Yeah, I got the funny papers all laid out in front of me here.
God, I remember on Sundays, my grandmother's house, we'd go there for lunch after church, and everybody would sit around in the living room, the men folk, because the women were in the kitchen fixing lunch. You fix lunch in the South. You don't cook it
You fix a meal.
You fix it. And if you're going to the store, you say, "Well, I'm fixing to go to the store." Okay, all right. My wife used to make fun of me when I first met her because she had always lived out west and she did not know about all of these southern idiosyncrasies. She found it all quite amusing, I must say.
Yes, I still find it amusing.
Yeah, so does she. But anyway, so the funny paper, my dad was not a sports fan. He really wasn't much of a news fan either. My grandfather liked to read the news, actually read the headlines, and my dad read the funny paper cover to cover, and I was the Parade magazine guy. And so 3 men in a newspaper would sit on the couch while the women fixed lunch, and or actually it was called dinner, while the women fixed dinner. Later in the day, as the sun was going down, we would have supper. So it's breakfast, dinner, and supper. When you say lunch back there, they look at you sideways and go, "What's that?" So anyway, enough of that. Let's go to 3 John 1:9. We'll talk about diatrophies. Yeah, I had to practice that, and I'll probably get it wrong the next time I say it. Diatrophies, and I may be saying it wrong now, loves to have the preeminence. So we're talking today about the spirit of diatrophies. Some people are so insecure and easily threatened that they feel a need to tear down anyone they perceive as a competitor. I'm going to let that hang in the air for a minute. In fact, I'll read it again. Don't forget, Ed's joining us at 1 today, Eastern. Some people are so insecure and easily threatened that they feel a need to tear down anyone they perceive as a competitor. I don't know if any of you know anybody like that. But consider Diotrephes, one of the New Testament church leaders. He found himself in a real dilemma when John recommended some gifted teachers of the gospel to come and speak at his church. Plagued with insecurity, Diotrephes feared their visit would threaten his own preeminence, so he refused to allow them to come. John, upset with Diotrephes' behavior, outlined to his friend Gaius how he planned to deal with it. I wrote to the church, but Diotrephes, who loves to have the preeminence among them, does not receive us. Therefore, if I come, I will call to mind his deeds, which he does, prating against us with malicious words, and not content with that, he himself does not receive the brethren, and forbids those who wish to, pulling them out of the church. Beloved, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. He who does good is of God, but he who does evil has not seen God. It's 3 John 1:9 through 11. The sad truth is that you'll find the spirit of Diotrephes alive and well in both secular and sacred organizations. This isn't just something that happens in the church. This happens in the workplace. This happens in the Kiwanis Club. This happens among the Masons, the guys that wear the hats and ride around in the little small cars. I mean, in any group, any organization, there's always people clamoring for power. I don't know why. It just seems like so much work, to live your life under the microscope as the leader and all that. I mean, I guess some people are wired for it and bred for it. It mystifies me. So, whether you're a churchgoer or not, you're involved in some group, organization, or in a workplace situation like The Office, which was, what a quirky show that was. It's off the air now. And the movie I slept through twice a couple weekends ago, The Big Short, it has Steve Carell, I think is his name, the guy who was the boss on The Office. He's in the movie The Big Short. So I told you all the story. I rented the movie because I couldn't take my kids to see it, and got it from the Red Box for $1.49. It's supposed to be $1, but somehow by the time you're done, it's $1.49. And for me, it was the big snooze. I was expecting the excitement and passion of Wall Street, but it was just this professor who played really loud, like thrash metal music, and every so often he would come out of his office and write on a whiteboard, and then go back into his very loud office and do some more computations and just keep betting that the mortgage-backed securities were going to implode, and eventually we all know they did. But anyway, so the concept behind the movie was great. I really wanted to see it, but let's get back to what I was talking about. They cast aspersions on newcomers perceived as threatening. Okay? Now, this happened in the church of Diotrephes, by Diotrephes himself, but it can happen at your workplace or any organization that you belong to. New people come with new ideas, new ways of doing things, and they threaten the status quo. And that makes some people very insecure. People feel threatened by the newcomer. They accuse bright, talented women of getting ahead by means other than their skills, talents, and qualifications. They look for the chinks in their victim's armor. But contrary to what they think, diminishing another person's image is not going to enhance theirs. When you stand on somebody else, it doesn't make you any taller. The origin of our word for devil comes from diabolos, which is literally translated as to slander. To slander, then, is to do the devil's work. So, think about who in your circle of influence behaves in that manner. And then check yourself, okay? When somebody new comes along, when someone at church gets appointed to a new position of authority, are you happy for them, or do you feel threatened by them? Do you feel passed over? This takes us back to motives, you know. What we do is important, but more important than what we do is the motivation behind what we do. You know, doing the right thing is still good because it's the right thing, but if we do it for the wrong motivation, then the beneficiary may still benefit, but we don't. So, give it some thought. Don't feel threatened. Everyone has their own unique gifts and abilities and talents, and tearing one man down will never make you bigger or stronger or smarter or taller or wealthier. It's just the way the world works. So be careful out there. And that is our good word for the day. All right. Let's go to the chart. S&P 500 E-mini Futures. It'll be joining us here in just a few moments. Last night, we had a Concierge Trade Alert that said to consider being long above 1257 and a quarter. 1257 and a quarter. This is 1257 and a quarter. Now, that first trigger, 2057 and a quarter. What might one find wrong with that first trigger? Well, the most recent significant swing low was way down here. Now you have to keep in mind that when I send out the alerts, I send them out often hours before they trigger. Sometimes they trigger relatively soon after they're sent out. But usually a fair amount of time has passed. Like in this case, it was this morning when we triggered. And so we look at the chart, and I teach this to all the students who are in the mentoring program, how to use the market to determine where to best place your stop. This picture here does not make that a good spot to go long. A better spot to go long would be here on this trigger. And in a mentoring session, I'll be more than happy to break it down for you and help you understand why. And I'll teach you a beautiful thing about the market when you become a mentoring student, is I'll teach you how to read the chart so that all the information you need to make your next trading decision comes not from an email or a fax or a guru or from anywhere other than the market. What a novel idea, to take your information for making your next trade from the market itself. Huh. You can do that? You can. And if we take this trigger, we have an opportunity of seeing 58.50 on this first move up. But because we know where to place our stop, we actually get to see this candle, which does give exactly 8 ticks. And then we get to see even this candle, which gives us our 8 ticks plus 1. That plus 1's important because that plus 1 guarantees you got to fill. So whether you held out for the 8 ticks plus 1 or you took multiple trades, and that's okay. Remember, we have 10 trades to reach our daily goal. And so if we get stopped out with 4 ticks on a trade, and then we get stopped out with 2 ticks on a trade, and then we get stopped out with 3 ticks on a trade, well, that's 9 ticks. We had 3 trades that, according to the world, were failures, yet we've exceeded our daily goal, and we have 7 unused trades to roll forward into tomorrow. Imagine that. The way you look at something, perception, is in fact reality. And so if we can learn to see things properly, we can literally change the way we see the world. And we'll change the way we interact with the world. We'll change the way we live out our lives. Let me check the chat box and see if Ed, I need to open the chat box. I haven't even opened it yet. There we go. Let me pull it over here. John, that's a big link. Tell me what it's about, if you would, please. Oh, maybe you did in the up above. You might find this article interesting. It's about nations and their debt, titled Nations Awash in Debt. Okay, great. Fragile to Global Stocks. It is written by a CME economist. Here's the link. Thank you very much for sharing that. I'm going to share that with the entire audience. I'll put it in the chat box, guys, for all of you. What you'll have to do is you'll have to, here's send to all. Okay. So Ed, if you're in the audience, let me know. Let me look over here in the list. The other day, I was trying to watch the charts and the list at the same time, and I completely missed Garrett when he came in. Ah, there's Ed. Okay. Hey, Ed, just let me know in the chat box if you're ready, and I'll open up your mic. Let's see. Is there a hyphen in that radio show access address? I'm not sure what you mean, Joel, about a hyphen. emini.cfrn.net. That takes you to our Google Plus page and the radio show. All the radio shows are archived there. They're also on our YouTube page, which is youtube.com/CFRN. Let's see. John B. says, I've read about people getting crazy from eating hooch brownies since they get too much of the stuff that makes you high in pot. Yeah, that is something with marijuana becoming legal in more and more states. And because smoking is not good for you no matter what you're smoking. In fact, there's more tar. I've been told there's more tar in a joint than there is in a pack of cigarettes. So I don't know if that's true. That's what I've heard. And so edibles are a popular way of consuming marijuana in the states where it is becoming legal or where it's legal for medical purposes. And then there's another way of doing it where they vaporize it. I'm not sure. But you're right, John, the concentration of THC in those edibles, because when you smoke a doobie, I hear, you get stoned pretty quick. But when you eat the edibles, it takes some time, maybe, I don't know, 30 minutes or an hour for you to begin to feel the effects. So a person might, you're only supposed to eat, I don't know, a half a brownie, but you eat a half and you don't feel anything, so you eat another half, you don't feel anything, so you eat another one, and pretty soon they're taking you to the hospital because you're not feeling so good. Okay. John B. says there's also been some good results for children with seizures when treated with pot. I'd not heard that. So I think the main thing is that pot is just like any other drug. Use it to heal and don't abuse it in order to just get loaded. Yeah, I hear you. Do you think the market's waiting for tomorrow's big employment number? Oh, okay, Michael already answered that. And I do think so, yes. Okay, I'm just scrolling down through all the comments here. $12.57 Charles, I'm not sure. That must have been a question from Michael. Ed's here. I am. Joel says Emini or Emini. Oh, just Emini without a hyphen. Emini, EMINI .CFRN.net. You betcha. Dwayne, on the CTA trade on the left, you show 7 points and 10 points. Where'd the 10 come from? Well, that would be if you chose to stay in the trade. Okay? Triggered here. Okay? And then the initial run up. This first 30-minute candle took you to 20.57 this first candle. So that's 3 points. Now, our daily goal is 2 points a day. So the first 30-minute candle here after the trigger, that satisfied the requirements for the 2420 blueprint. If you trailed your stop all the way to the tippy top, you got 7 points. However, with our methodology, you never get out at the exact swing high unless you're using a hard stop. And that's what I recommend for all of the new students, is that whatever market you're in, whether it's the S&P or gold or crude or whatever it might be, use a hard stop so that you become accustomed to what it feels like to get your points for the day consistently, day after day after day. Once you gain more experience, then you can take the hard target off and trade the way Michael does by just trailing your stop until the market eventually comes back and takes you out with profit. So you had your goal for the day here. If you continue to trail your stop, there was 7 points at the peak, and then as price pulled back, if you were trailing, it would have taken you out, somewhere in here. If you were trailing your stop at a large distance, in fact, if you had your stop still below the entry point, and that's something on these bigger picture trades that you want to not be so quick to move your stop to break even, because we know that important prices and important areas are almost always tested. So we had a 7 point and then a pullback, leg, retrace, leg. So the swing high here was 10 points off of this original trigger if you had stayed in the trade. And as I commented yesterday on the show, I think most people would have either been out here or they would have been out on this pullback here. But for those who stay below the trigger with their stop loss, 10 was available. And then on the second trigger, we ran up to 20.60.75. So from 54, to 60. That would be 6 points. So this was a 6-point move here. Now, the risk scenario on this trade is far superior to the risk scenario on this trade. And yes, I will teach you all about that. Concierge trades are valid until the next set come out the following day, just like the one trade a days are valid until the next batch is published the following day. But enough about me. We have a real superstar in our presence, and let me open up his mic. If I can. Oh.
Still waiting for the superstar, Dwayne.
Hey, man, you know what? Oh, well, he'll be here. He'll be here in a minute. How you doing, buddy?
Okay, how are you?
I'm good, man. I appreciate your email the other day, and I know how to get a hold of you in a pinch, so thank you.
Oh, anytime. Yeah.
So what have you been up to since we last spoke? Anything major? Minor?
I would say the high point was Easter.
Okay.
It was really nice. We had a really nice time.
All the family come together?
Yeah, everyone except one of my daughters. She's working on a computer project in Belize. So she wasn't with us, but she was missed. She's getting pretty good at Skyping. Huh?
She's in Belize, did you say?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
She is right now.
How does she like it there?
Well, I think she likes it, but, it's pretty third world.
Yeah.
And there's some places in it that are pretty dangerous to be. But there's also some really beautiful places.
Is she with a group, or is she married? Or
no, she's not married. She's alone. She has a boyfriend, but he's in Atlanta.
Okay.
And he's
so I mean, when I say alone, is she there working for a company or?
Yeah, she has a company she owns with her boyfriend.
Okay. Okay.
So she's taking care of. I guess she's putting in a point of sale thing in a resort and a restaurant, and she was supposed to be back, but they keep adding work onto her and trying to convince her to stay.
Right.
Of course, we're praying back here that God's will be done,
well,
and we hope our will matches His.
It's sort of a tropical paradise, is it not?
Yeah, she's in a really nice part, but it's still, the internet service is very sporadic.
Is it?
She has to go to a restaurant. You can't, she lived there in a rental home, and in that home, that the internet was on and off, and so was the power. And they have a big problem with infrastructure.
Down in Mexico, down in Rocky Point, which is just a 4-hour drive from my door to the mission door down in Rocky Point. It's a 4-hour drive, but the electricity there, most days it works, but some days it doesn't. And nobody freaks out or gets upset.
Right.
When it doesn't work, they just accept the fact that, hey, it's not working. Same with the water. Most days it flows, but every now and then you turn on the faucet and there's no water. So what do? Do you call somebody? No, you just wait. You go do something else and come back later and maybe it's flowing. So.
Yeah. We have a lot here that we take for granted, that's for
goodness.
Sure.
Yes, we do.
All you got to do is travel outside the country to realize that.
I mean, at where we cross over, down in, I'm trying to think the name of that little town, where when we go to Rocky Point, we cross in, oh gosh, I've been there so many times, I can't believe I mean, it's just a little hole in the road, little town. It's got one store, and then it's got the border crossing. But the second you drive through the crossing gate, you get they have a red light, green light system. If you get a green light, they just wave you right on through. And if you get a red light, they pull you over, ask you questions, maybe they inspect your luggage and whatever you got in
Right.
the trunk. And we went down, I'm guessing, because we went every other weekend for a long time when we first got the bug and started doing missionary work down there. So we went every other weekend for several years. I guess we passed through there 100 times. We probably only got the red light 5 times. I mean, we were just always blessed. We would stop and pray because we always had contraband. We were bringing food to people. We were bringing, stuff that people needed at the mission or at the orphanage. There's an orphanage down there, not one that we built, but one that we were affiliated with. And we had a Saturday soup kitchen, and so we were always taking stuff. And one time we got caught at Thanksgiving with a truckload of turkeys. I mean, we had, and toys. The back seat behind my pickup truck was toys for the kids. And it was a lady guard with a big long gun. And I mean, those guys mean business. I mean, the second you cross the border, you're in another world. I mean, just even from the litter and the trash that's everywhere on the side of the road, it's just, I mean, it is so, like night and day. And as this woman guard was looking through the toys, my wife saw that she was lingering over this one particular little doll. And so my wife speaks a little bit of Spanish, a little bit more than I do, and so she asked the guard, "Do you have a daughter or niño or whatever?" And the guard says, "Yes." And so my wife pointed to the doll that she was holding and lingering over and said, "For your niño, for Christmas." And her face lit up, and she said, I mean, some could consider that a bribe, and, you can go to jail for that. But her face lit up, and she goes, "Oh, gracias. You go. And so we jumped in. And one time I took a TV down, because we had a little trailer on the beach. I took a TV down. And silly me, I had gotten bold at that point. We've got the favor of God. I know we're going to get a green light, right? When you buy a TV to take down, you're supposed to take it out of the box, and you're supposed to beat it up with a chain and make it look, old and used. And oh no, not me. I bought it at Costco or wherever, and I got it in the back of the truck, and I'm just, sure enough, we get the red light. The guy sees the TV. He knows it's brand new. He pulls me into the guard shack. It's the first time they ever took me inside the guard shack. He shuts the door, and he says, "Do you realize I could take your truck?" I go, "Yes, sir." He said, "I'm going to have to fine you." I go, "I understand." He said, "It's going to cost you $30. And I said, "Okay."
He said, "Praise God." You tried not to say it.
I reached in my pocket. As I was pulling out my money, he goes, "Do you need a receipt?" And I go, "No, sir." And he said, "Then make it 20. So I handed him a 20, shook his hand, got in my truck, and down the road.
Well, the more you travel like that, Dwayne, you realize that these individual guards, police, military in these other countries, they have a lot of autonomy, and they can take you to one extreme or the other.
Yep.
And if you
And
don't have the right demeanor.
They're not getting rich standing there at that border.
Right.
So it's why the whole country is so ripe for corruption. The frightening part is that because sometimes we would leave late on Friday, by the time we crossed the border and got into Mexico, once you hit the border, it's just 1 hour to our place. But you're traveling on this 2-lane road, and for an hour you're in the middle of nowhere. And you can get swarmed by federales. They just out of nowhere. And they pull you over, and they got their guns drawn, and your heart's pounding, and They ask you, where you going? What are you doing? Who are you? What do you want? You got any drugs? They always ask that. Do you have any drugs or guns? Oh, well, here, let me check, you know. I mean, what do they expect somebody to say? Do you have any drugs or guns? No. Are you sure? Positive. And the one time that happened, they just said, okay, go ahead. And we're like, whew, man, I don't know how many more trips my heart can take of this, you know. This is...
Yeah. Right. Well, hey, it makes you closer to the Lord when he puts you in those situations. That's
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. Because you know...
Realize you're not alone.
Yeah.
And all you have is your faith.
That's right.
You know, in him.
Yeah,
but he's really all we need. I mean, he's a game changer in those situations. Sometimes we don't like the way the game's changed, but, you know, you just got to have faith and do the right thing.
I don't know if you heard me talk about it earlier, but it might have been before you logged in. Peter Eliades is going to be on the show tomorrow at 1 o'clock, and I don't know if you know who he is.
Yeah, I've you know, I'm not familiar with his work. I know he's a psycho guy, and I know from the past he's been around a long time because I've heard his name from, gosh, the 90s.
Yeah, here's a picture of him. He went to Harvard, graduated Harvard, and then went to Harvard and then Boston University Law School, passed the Massachusetts bar, moved to New York City, and went to work playing in a piano bar.
Oh, really?
Then he picked up a book written by J.M. Hurst, something about profiting from stock market cycles or something. And J.M. Hurst was a bit of a reclusive kind of a guy, from what Garrett has told me. And so it was that book that got Peter intrigued with the whole cycle business. And this was back in, let's see, in New York City in '67. He was playing in the piano bars. He moved to L.A., continued his musical career in '68. That's when he, in '72, he began his financial career as a stockbroker. And then I guess that's everything went from there. So, I mean, he got involved in the markets in '72. He was an analyst on L.A. television station KWHY, the nation's first financial TV station, for several years, beginning in '73. I did not know that.
Wow.
And so he went on to win some awards. He earned Timer Digest Timer of the Year, placed second in '86, and then he and Mark Hulbert of the Hulbert Financial Digest got together, and he named Eliades as the most consistent mutual fund switcher based on his timing signals for the years '85, '86, '87, '88. And I guess most people who...
That's quite an award, really.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
His
impressive.
website is stockmarketcycles.com, and they have... I guess he has like a newsletter that you can subscribe to. He received the Charles Dow Award presented by the Market Technicians Association. So he's got a pretty good background. You know, he's been on FNN, CNBC, Wall Street Week, Larry King. And
right.
tomorrow he will grace the studios of CFRN. So we're looking forward to that. And if anyone can't attend, I have been known to record these events. So, but I'd like for everyone who can be here to be here in person, so you can, because we're going to do, after the roundtable discussion, we're going to actually have a Q&A session. So anyone in the audience that's familiar with Peter's work and has questions, we will field a few questions as much as he has time available for. So Ed, I know your
that
time.
should be real interesting.
Yeah. Charles says he was big in the 80s, had a big following, him and Prector. So, I know your time is valuable and limited as well. So, do you want me to pass the charts to you now?
Sure, whenever you're ready, Dwayne. I came in at the end of the discussion. I think you were talking about medical marijuana. And I
yes.
don't know, maybe you covered it to some degree, but did anybody...
Oh, I just made you the... Okay, I got your voice back. Okay. I lost your voice there for a minute. So,
Okay.
Ask that question again.
Did anybody... click ready. This thing, it says show my screen, but I don't have anywhere to click. Just a second here. Let me see. It might be something else. On the medical marijuana thing, it's pretty impressive what the results they're starting to get. They're not talking about it. It's mainly being done overseas from what I hear. But I
for
found
the
out
longest time, I thought that the whole medical marijuana thing was just simply, a loophole for those that like to smoke pot to try to get it legalized. But I have a brother-in-law who just passed away from cancer, and in the final stages, he was taking some form of a cannabinoid. It was in a pill form, and there's a guy that sells it on the internet. I guess you boil it down, and it's almost like the process for making hash or hash oil, but he extracts something, and this particular method, it's not, you don't get high off of it, but there has been, according to his website, remarkable results in actually helping people get better or help their cancer go into remission. I think, and my brother-in-law did seem to improve when he started taking the medication, but we found out about it, at a very late stage, and ultimately it did not, save him or bring him back. But yeah, some amazing things they're finding out. As a young kid growing up in the 70s, we smoked it just because we thought it was a good time, and so we had no other reason. We never dreamed back then that there was any medicinal properties. But I'm starting to believe now. I have a sister-in-law who has had brain surgery, and because I don't know if she had an aneurysm or something that, anyway, they had to actually operate on her brain, and that was part of her recovery process and was prescribed and recommended by her doctor. So
yeah, well, I think it's going to become mainstream pretty soon. I don't think that it's going to happen easily, but from what I'm hearing, they're doing a lot of stuff in Europe about starving cancer to death because it requires sugar and carbohydrates, and
yes,
by knocking those out and using a liquid form of marijuana, they're saying they're killing almost every cancer that patient that comes in. They're killing the cancer, eliminating it. But we haven't heard anything over here. But I do know a friend who has this girl who was a friend of his that went to Europe and got cured. And I can't remember what he told me. I don't know what type of cancer she had. She went to Europe and went through that protocol and got cured. Then she came back to the U.S. and she's been getting checked out at MD Anderson in Houston every 6 months. And she's stayed in remission now for almost 2 years. There's no sign. But the nurse in at MD Anderson that has been checking her out, told her that she said that we are giving people now that are going through chemo this liquid form of marijuana in a pill, but they're not telling them what it is because it helps them get through the treatments better.
Well, yeah, it's supposedly, I've heard of it being used in conjunction with chemotherapy and radiation because it helps with the nausea. And
Well, she found that out, but the nurse told her they don't tell anybody these are just pills that are going to make you feel a little better as you go through the treatment, so the symptoms aren't as bad. Whereas if they put them on
I still don't have your screen.
Yeah, this thing is not giving me a place to click on, and I don't know why. If it says show my screen here.
Let me take the screen back and pass it over again.
Okay.
And maybe that'll do the trick. Sometimes you just gotta do stuff. Alright, so now I'm back to being the presenter. And so now I'm gonna pass the baton to you again. And I'm doing it as I always do each time. Oh, I see. It moved you over to the staff. Okay. If you get over there. And hit query. Make presenter. Yes. Okay.
Please close confidential windows when ready. You have been made the presenter. But usually I have a box to click on. Let me just minimize my other screens and see if it came up on one of these other screens. It's never done that before.
All right.
It must be on my end, Dwayne.
Well, I've done everything here the same, so hopefully you'll find it.
We'll get it. I gotta just find it. Minimize all my windows. Take them all down to blank screens, and it's probably under one of the windows, and it shouldn't be because I got this one on top. But wow, let's see. No, I guess what I'll do here is let me look under this thing. No, it's not there. That's very strange. If I click on show my screen, okay, screen of monitor 1. Can you see me?
I got it.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay.
You hit the right button. I'm looking at Crude weekly continuation.
You got it. Okay, a little bit about the energy market, since it seems to be pretty integral to the stock market and everything else these days. Indication, oil's always been a big indicator of economic activity in a country. The oil demand and usage, it's a really great economic indicator, and as opposed to using the GDP of a country. This is a better one. So what we're starting to see is right now the fundamentals look like they're at their weakest point they're going to be for a while. And things should be starting to look a little better. In other words, we're going to turn the corner on the fundamentals. The market's a little bit ahead of that. So it turned a little earlier. Crude turned first, but it didn't have the backing of the products or Brent, but now it's got the backing from them. And so this thing's pretty clear. Can you hear me okay, Dwayne?
Yeah, it sounded like your volume dropped off just a little bit, but I can still hear you fine.
Yeah, I sound better than mine. I was echoing like crazy.
Yeah, no,
anyway,
you're fine.
So the way the growth is going in the prices and how they're so much lower again from last year, even at these levels, we should have the possibility here that we will strengthen through the end of the year. It isn't going to be a moonshot, but we're probably, it's very safe to say that the 26.05 low is it. It's very safe to say that. And once it got above the 37.70 level and stabilized, it was telling me stuff because it had the rallying of the products come with it, which is the components and really the true value of crude oil. Crude oil is used as a hedge by many airlines. They can't do the volume out in the future that they want to do, but they can do it with crude oil. And a lot of times the banks and other trading companies will take the other side and they say, well, we'll take the risk on jet fuel tracking with crude. We'll just use crude as your hedge. And a lot of them do that because...
Hey, have you heard of I guess it's a mutual fund called, I think it's UTWI?
I can't say I have. UTWI, huh?
Now,
is it new?
There is it's been around a while, but there's a website called Reddit. I don't know if you're familiar with Reddit. Reddit is how they spell it. But it's sort of like a play on the words, I read it. But, so anyway, Reddit, they call themselves, is this it? Oh, nothing would come up?
Yeah, I can't get that symbol up. UTWI, you said, right?
Yeah, let me check. Let me go to my little... And because I know that there's somebody in the audience who asked about this before, and I read an interesting article last night about this, and I'll tell you, but I want to find... I might be remembering the symbol wrong. UTWI. No.
Is it a mutual fund?
Let me try UWTI.
I don't really have mutual funds on here. I have ETFs and ETNs.
Okay, it's UWTI. That's what it is. Try that, UWTI. See if you can bring that up. What it is, it's a 3 times
velocity shares.
Crude
long crude.
ETN.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so over on Reddit, which it's amazing that more people haven't heard of it because apparently millions and millions of people have heard of it and go there every day, and they bill themselves as the front page of the internet. And while it's not really a social network like Facebook, there are people who are Reddit purists, and if you post on there, you get upvoted or downvoted, and there's a new, they call them subreddits, where you can start a topic or discussion about anything. And so there's a bunch of kids, high school kids and young college kids, who are going to this subreddit called, I think it's Wall Street Bets, and they're throwing tons of money at the most risky things they can find. It's like the new, how different things are in vogue with college kids or high school kids.
Right.
Either they're drinking or jumping off bridges or cutting themselves or whatever. Well, the new thing with this crowd is they all want to be Martin Shkreli, the CEO of that pharmaceutical company, the bad boy. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yeah.
So anyway, they think he's a hero, even though he lied and stole, and because he made millions of dollars at one point, they think of him as a hero. And this one kid who's still in high school, I think he might be 15. I don't know. Anybody that wants to follow up on this can. But he turned some small amount of money, I don't know, a couple thousand into 55,000 over just a couple weeks' time. And he posted a brokerage statement to prove it. And I know you can fake that kind of stuff, but people seem to believe this kid. And so there's like a feeding frenzy going on every day of people throwing out these stock symbols and other things that are incredibly high risk. And they've really been focusing of late on high risk oil plays. And the idea is, they call it YOLO is their war cry. You only live once. And so for those of you who've never heard of Reddit, you might go there this afternoon if you got time to kill, and you might find some of the investing forums. And there's, you know what, you just go check it out for yourself, because my words can't describe it. But for you, Ed, looking at this, now even the kids say this is not a long-term play. This is something they're in and out of, sometimes for a couple days, sometimes for, a couple hours, maybe a couple minutes in some cases. So what's your observation on it overall?
Well, my observation is coming from an ignorant standpoint. I've never seen it before. I've heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
But and it's probably a useful vehicle for people that don't trade the futures market. But I would much rather trade crude futures, because this is just a derivative of the futures. There's middlemen in here that are going to be taking a slice out of the pie on everything you do. So, the exchange traded notes, if you look at them over time, when there's big moves in the market, it costs you money to get in with the crowd, because they're moving, and the fast money comes in and out. So you got to be really willing to trade it like a hot potato. That's what I've seen. The other thing is, it's very sensitive to the roll prices in the market. So if you, for instance, let me see if I can get this up here. If you take a look at the...
Hey, I just answered that message you sent me. I just now saw the thing blinking.
So. Get down. Yeah, I just need about a minute here.
Yeah, no problem. No
take
problem.
care
Whenever
of
you need.
I'll be right back. Here's what I wanted to point out, though, here on this. If you look at the difference in price between the May and the Junes, okay, there's May crude and June crude up in the upper left in the corner of this quote screen. Here's May, here's June. The delta is about $1.47 or something like that, okay? So we're sitting here that the June is worth $1.47 more. When you're in a market that is in contango, which is what this is called, when the front of the market is lower than the next month, and that's lower than the next month, and that's lower than the next month. Look, you can see here, in December crude, they're showing 43.32 here. Now, I'm not telling you this for a trade, but the way the market's shaping up, if you can hold this thing, you'll make money on it. But you probably have to take some swings, and it's a high-risk entry at this point. But let's say crude falls to the lower part here, gets down into the low 30s, gets a 33, 34 bucks. This is probably going to be a great buy in the outer months. But you cannot justify this. Those are based on the front month or the front 2 months, that exchange-traded note. So what they have to do each month is they have to move this into here. So if they're long here, I'm just showing it from the long point. If you're long that exchange-traded note, and the market's got to go pretty good in your favor to break even, because what they're going to do is they're going to go long here, and then they're going to have to sell this at a lower price and buy this at a higher price. Now, the real market is down here. This is the physical market. It matches up to the physical market once a month. So this is more representative of where the real price of crude oil is trading at. Well, these guys with the notes, they have to move this position every month. And sometimes they do the front 2 months. They'll move to the second month, they'll move to the third month, move to the fourth month. But as they do that, they have this built-in loss, meaning you have to make up this, $1.40 or $1.50 on each month that you come to, and I can say, well, it's not even $1 here, it's 94 cents from the June to July. Those still add up, and that's why if you're trading futures, you don't have to worry about the rolls. Because what they'll do with these exchange-traded notes is they'll do reverse splits. If this thing gets down into the sub-10s, a lot of times they'll do a reverse split. They'll give you, they'll try and get the price up so the people that are shorting it and want to make money to the downside can make some money. And what I've seen them do is they'll knock these things down in a downtrend to almost nothing, and people will be trying to buy the bargains, but they get nailed on this roll. So they have to overcome a lot of inertia that's against them. And you're much better off trading in front of the futures market. Now, in a big move, and if you don't want to have the wherewithal to put up margin and be liable for the whole shebang like we are when we trade futures, our liability is bigger. The exchange traded notes say, hey, you're not going to lose more money than you put into this thing. It can only go to zero. But the question is, when it gets below, when I've seen them go down, not this one in particular, but I've seen them go down to like $5, $3, and then they'll do a reverse split and they're back up at 20. So if they give you 1/4 of the number of shares, and now the price is 20, so these guys can keep selling it and making money. So to me, that the market isn't working in your favor right here. When it's working in your favor, the front month for the notes, when the front month, if it was reversed, which is called backwardation, where the front month is tight and people need to have this stuff, then you see these differentials reverse and the high is on the front part of the market. When that's the case, then you're a lot better off if you're taking a long 18 exchange traded note. Okay, you are. Because what they're doing is they're buying the front. They're buying the front initially, then they have to sell that, and it'll be selling at a higher price and getting in at a lower price when they put it on the Junes. So I'll be right back, Dwayne.
Okay, buddy.
And I'll just be a second.
Yeah, no, take your time. Okay. All right, guys. While he is doing that, I will glance at the chat box to see if there's anything in here. Richard said that his son-in-law did a documentary on marijuana called The Union, The Business of Getting High in 2007. You should check it out. Very interesting and won awards. So it's called The Union, The Business of Getting High in 2007. And that's one of our regulars, Richard. His son did this documentary. Okay. Let's see what else. John says, I've never heard of an exchange-traded note, only funds. Learned something new again today. Pass on these exchange-traded notes. I will stick with futures. This is good stuff Ed is teaching us. Thanks, John. Yeah, I brought it up. I brought up this UWTI only because I wasn't so much interested in the fund itself or the note or whatever the heck it is, but the fact that these young kids are getting involved. I guess they're getting their money from mom or dad, or they're working a summer job and saving up their money, and instead of going backpacking in Europe for the summer, the way young people did back in the 60s and 70s, some of them are throwing their money at these very, very, and they purposely, seek out the riskiest things they can find, because the riskier it is, the greater the reward if you happen to be on the right side of the trade. Not something that we would ever recommend here. So the news article I found fascinating. I meant to flip it in my flip book. For those of you that follow me on Flipboard, for those of you that follow me there, I was just reading a comment from John B. He said, I had never heard of an exchange-traded note before today, only funds. I learned something new again today. I'm going to pass on the exchange-traded notes. I'll stick with futures. This is good stuff that Ed is teaching us.
I'm back, Dwayne.
Yep, I know, and I'm just letting. I was reading that so that you would know that people like what they're hearing from you.
Well, that's good. I appreciate that. Yeah, there's a lot of tricks in these notes because there's a lot of ways they make you take more risks than you think. You know, they just, the odds aren't really stacked in your favor unless you choose the time. Like I said, if crude oil gets into a backwardated mode where the front months are higher than the outer months, that's a pretty good time to get in those things because they're rolling at the advantage for you. And they're tracking the futures. So they're literally in here doing these rolls. Most of them hedge with the futures market. So just keep that in mind. The exchange traded notes, they have some in the bond market. And I used to remember trying to make money with those things. And lo and behold, you know, they'll do those reverse splits on you. And you keep thinking, well, this is good value. It's only $3. I got to get in here. I can only lose $3. No, they'll roll that sucker up again, and then you'll lose some more. I mean, they can keep it up. There's no floor for them. That's what you got to recognize. There's no floor for them. Even though it comes down close to, you know, gets in single digits from, say, 40 down to single digits, that's when they'll do their little reverse splits, and you'll think you have no more downside. Well, you know, you still do. They'll kick it up there and make it even harder for you to get your money back on those reverse splits. A lot harder. So, anyway, remember the last time I was on, Dwayne? It might have been 4 weeks ago. We talked about the gasoline switching seasons here and how it's going to go up.
How they have to change the blends, right?
Vapor pressure, yeah. So you see, the last time we were on, we were in the 115 or something on the gasoline market. Now we're at 142. You've all seen them jump at the pumps. We talked about how that would come, and that's normal. That doesn't mean crude's any more in demand. That means the gasoline blends cost more money to make right now. It's more of a refining process to do that. So anyway, let me get back to where I was here on this, Dwayne.
Okay.
Let me do this. Where is this?
Yeah, I didn't mean to throw you off your game with the whole UTWI. I just find it interesting that while you were gone, I said, you know, back in the 60s and 70s, young people would save up their money and go backpacking in Europe or something like that. And
right.
And today's young people are saving up their money, or however they get their money, and instead of backpacking in Europe, they're finding the riskiest thing possible out there, the riskiest vehicles, because they have the biggest return if you're on the right side. And it has to speak something about the culture of our youth today, and that's something that I'll have to ponder and try and get to the bottom of. Maybe I'll go on that forum and in fact, I think I will. I'll go on that forum and invite some of those, like the one kid who's got, I forget his handle, who's very popular. I'll say, hey, I've been reading your story here, and I'd like to interview you on my radio show. And I mean, what teenager wouldn't want to be interviewed on a radio show about his stock trading prowess? I thought you had to be 18 to even open a brokerage account, but I think you do.
I don't know.
So maybe
I don't know what to do. Yeah, I think you can always find someone who wants to do business with you.
Mm-hmm.
If you look hard enough.
All right, well, go ahead. I won't interrupt you anymore.
No, that's fine. Yeah, one more thing about that note. There is nothing to say if you're going to make a trade for a few days that maybe it won't hurt you maybe the odds won't be stacked against you on a really short-term trade. I wouldn't say that's probably accurate, and you could make some good money if you caught this thing at an inflection point in that. Sure, because it's triple the move. But again, you have a lot more leverage in the futures market on top of that too. Okay, you're leveraging your money in the futures because you're putting up a margin. Right now, it's probably $2,700 for crude to carry it during the day. That being the case, the contract's worth $38,000. You've got a pretty good leverage ratio, much more than 3 to 1 there for your money. But you also have to be on your toes because you have the whole risk with it too. So that's all I'm saying. If you know how to trade the futures, you got a system to trade the futures, it's going to be more efficient over time than any exchange traded note. The exchange traded note gives you the peace of mind that if something happens overnight, I don't think they can come after you and get more money out of you. So be it. That's what I would say. One thing, Dwayne, on the energy market here, I'm going to come back to it. This is where the whole move we followed down here, and this is where it began. It was $112.24, and we completed the fifth wave down here. We did complete this move. We didn't really know till it rallied up enough to tilt the odds in its favor, and then I was ultra cautious with saying too many things about it because it started to take out the numbers I wanted it to, but it didn't have the Brent crude going with it until just a couple of weeks ago, and we didn't have the products following suit until really a couple of weeks ago. So all the confirmations came back then. The point is, we are in this situation now. Fundamentally, things should start to look better. They're not going to be looking worse every month. They should be starting to turn, particularly in the second half of this year. I think the growth is probably going to be stronger than anybody expected because these prices have a lot to do with demand, and the prices are still extremely low. Any chart we look at, this is a relatively very cheap price here for crude oil and products. We've been spoiled. I don't know about you, going in and paying 30 cents a gallon more over the course of 2.5 weeks probably makes you want to, think, what are they doing?
I hadn't noticed that it was creeping up. I haven't filled up in a couple weeks, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's come up pretty good here. I'll say that. Because I filled up, I know 4 weeks ago, I think down here in the $30s, and I'm paying $1.78 today. So, okay. So on this, I'm going to spend a little time on this because I think there's a real opportunity here. We finally have the fundamentals and the technicals merging in here because I think the worst is over from a standpoint of that we're not going to get progressively worse. We can make that determination on a fundamental basis unless we have a global financial collapse, which the odds of that happening, I think there's a lot of things in place that could make it happen, but there have been a lot of things in place that could make it happen for 7 years. So I'm not real, I can't bet on that. If I look at the charts and forget about me trying to be an economist or anything like that, I got to go with the charts because they're clean right now. So if crude is put in its lows here at 26.05, there's one other thing that I would like to show you here. Let me get it up. On crude. This is the first quarter projections I had on crude from January 1st. And this is a quarterly chart. So this is going to end today. This bar right here on the right this is the numbers, and these are also the numbers in here. The predicted low for this quarter coming into the year was 27.05. The actual low was 26.05. The predicted high coming into the year was 43.99. The actual high is 41.90. which we set last week. Now, if I look at this, I say, okay, I went below by $1. Normally when it takes the low out, it won't get to the high. But the fact is we had a lot of room to run from this level. And when on the daily chart, when we made that low, we didn't stay under $27, but we weren't even under there for a day. And we were reversing higher. So this was the leader in turning the energy market up. It was WTI. It was not Brent. It was not products. It was this contract right here, because there is so much financial money in there that's hedging for different reasons. Some people want to hedge the inflation risk down here, saying, well, you know, how low can it go? And so this thing held real nice in here, and then it comes all the way back here. It's $2 short, basically, of the high that it was predicted, but I wouldn't expect it to get there because we went below the low. That's how I use my stuff. So this is how it fit this quarter. This is how it fit last quarter. This is how it fit the quarter before. That was the third quarter of 15. And so once we had the turn down here, you know, I was all over it. I was all over it here, because this turn and close way under where it should go, and I use standard deviations. If it's under enough, I know I'm not going to get back to the predicted high that next bar, and I know that I'm very likely to bust through the lows easily. So I know at this point, before this ever happens, I know what these numbers are here before this bar ever starts. So I have something to trade against. They're not always right. You can see it's not, but it'll keep you on the right side of the market. I knew it was going to be a big move. So what I would do is I would go to my monthly chart, and I'd have 3 bars here to trade off of. And that enables me to know when I should get in and take the risk. Or a weekly chart. I mean, I can use any of those. So I just wanted to show you this. So when we look at this and we look at crude oil, I'm impressed because my semi-annual chart here on crude oil, here's why I'm impressed. Here's the first 6 months of the year. The predicted low on the first 6 months of the year was 2302, but the predicted high is 4802. Well, we've been down to this extreme. We have $3 in front of it, which means this thing could possibly get to $51. But there's only 3 months left to do that after today. So what I believe is going to be the case, I think there's going to be plenty of resistance between $48 and $52 this year. Now, it could change if there's some significant supply disruption in the Middle East because of a prolonged war. That will change. It wouldn't matter what these charts say. You know, there's certain things in the fundamental realm that can overwhelm everything. But we'll have a shorter-term chart that'll tell us when those things are getting potentially ready to happen, when the risk becomes to the upside as opposed to the downside. Right now, I like buying dips on crude oil. Very much so. I think since we determined here, this is the daily chart on crude, we determined the fifth wave down, and that's on a daily and on a weekly chart, and the weekly chart started from $112. If we go back and look at that, the 3-2 retracement, just to correct this, the minimal retracement would normally be $58.97. That's a long way away. That's like $28 away from where we are. $20 away from where we are today. Yeah, the 236 Fibonacci number is almost always exceeded. Yeah, but in really bear markets, it can hold 46.39. It isn't on these. Yeah, it isn't on my thing here, but 46.39. So those numbers, you know, with the predicted highs up there at $46, missing at $46 for the next quarter, we're going to get to that number. So what I'm looking for is a pullback here as to when I want to buy it. I show a completed 5-way move up. So I've got to correct this move back down to 2602. So here's the numbers we're looking at. The 382 in here is 3584. The 50% point is 3397, and the 618 is 3210. 3210 is almost, it'd be really hard for the market to break that. Okay? It would. If that's some kind of global financial catastrophe, it would be really hard for it to break that. So if I know I want to buy between 32 and 35.84, somewhere in this range is my buy point. I'll be looking for setups. I'll be looking for a predicted low for the day, for the week. Sometimes they coincide on the same number. The market almost always moves off that. I'll be looking at any kind of buy setups and other things that I might use that tell me to get in the market. But this is definitely going to be my buy zone right in here, the blue line down to the green. And I preferably, and what I believe, it'll hold the 50% of the 382, which is let's say $34 to $36. Will it get there? Probably. This is a big move, right? This was a significant move up. We should see more of a correction than this, albeit it's very flat here. So I beat that horse to death. I just want to give you the clear. It's really looking clean right now. I've got the fundamentals behind me. I've got a yearly predicted low up around $50. It didn't get to the yearly predicted low, but we got the year to get there. I don't believe we're going to get there, and that's 21 and change. So it was a 26. I can actually go. If that's the low, I can actually go and expect to go 5 years over the predicted high. So I get $55, $56, $54 on this move, which is why it's real important to buy this first pullback. We'll know if we're wrong. But this is the buy zone. So that's something, if you're going to do an exchange traded note or some hybrid like that, I'd much rather be interested down here on my terms and take a shot in here, because this is not much of a correction for the run that we've had. And it's not the S&P. It's not manipulated as easy as S&P can be supported much easier than this. Because this is relative to the physical. Okay, Dwayne, I beat that. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to go to the monthly chart here on the S&P.
All right.
What we've got here on the S&P, we've been counting and looking for a wave 4 down. This is real interesting here because, let me just pull this over a little bit, because we came down here, and I really thought in the month of March we should have gotten to the 0 line here on the MACD, but we did not get it. We needed to get to 2,900, which would be, and we only got to 8,700. The closest we can do before we count the fours would be within 10% of the 0 line, and the high point here was 2959, 29,591. We need to get within 10% of that. We need to get below 2,900 on this thing. We only got to 8,600. So thus we didn't finish the 4th wave yet. It makes it a little tricky in here, but the rally's been like it's always been on the S&P for the last several years, stronger than it should be. So we may still make a new high over the 2134 here. In fact, I'm quite sure we're going to do it. But whether we don't come down and test this again will be the key. Because if we get in over this now, we're still in the 3rd wave. And the next rollover, since this will be the first substantial correction we had in it, if we make new highs, it don't show a lot of follow-through, close back under 2134, the record high, I'll be looking short the market. Okay, will I short it here? No. I right here, I have to trade a much shorter term to have an edge, so which I would do. I'm willing to do that. But right now, I'm more of a cautious thing here. Crude's a lot cleaner than this chart. And because so, I'd rather look at that. And when I look at this thing right now, I got to be careful, because here's the 1802 low down here. This is the move up off the 1802 low. It's a 5-way move up, which is bullish. Will we correct here without making new highs? But we'll just have to see. I personally don't think the market's going to go into a moonshot just yet. But the wild card is this: the G20 and the IMF and our central bank, among the other central banks of the world, have made some kind of agreement that the dollar is high enough. And they did that a couple of weeks ago, and you can see that the dollar index started to turn down. That's real important, for one thing, for crude oil, because it's priced in dollars. If the dollar is going to get weaker, that's another boost for crude. If the dollar is going to get weaker in a controlled manner, that's another boost for the stock market. So, the asset markets tend to go up in a controlled sell-off in a dollar. And especially if that was the turning point, of which I think they're trying to orchestrate it at this point. See, and you can see how strong the euro has rallied in the last couple of weeks. Well, that's why. They made some kind of deal. I've been told that by somebody who seems to know these things, so I believe them. They could be wrong, but the markets aren't saying they're wrong. So if that's the turning point, then, hey, maybe this thing does keep going. I'm just giving you the exceptions, the fundamental things that stand in the way of the market turning down from here, and that's one of them, particularly if the dollar has really put in its top. So you'll want to watch that. And one more thing I'll say about this. Let me find my chart on it. Okay, if I go back and look at the S&P here, here's a semi-annual chart on the S&P. The quarterly chart, it blew the low out, but it's come all the way back. The semi-annual chart here, you can see in the corner, our predicted low at the beginning of the year for the first 6 months was 1785. The actual low was 1802, 17 points above it. So the market held 17 points in front of this. Predicted high for this 6-month quarter is 2081, but we did not reach that, which means this is definitely in play, and it'll probably take it out before before we're through June. I expect we'll be above that. And knowing where this number was, and knowing I was on right when that thing bottomed, Dwayne, and I pointed out, if the market would trade back and close back over 1802, we had 5 waves down in here. So I didn't know that it would rally all the way back, but I knew it was going to at least have a 100-point rally on the S&P, which is enough for me. And I think, when you look at this recovery is remarkable, but that doesn't mean it's going to just slash on up and run. But it should get over 2081, which isn't that far from where we are today. But we had those numbers at the beginning of the year. And this looks pretty clean right now. And so far, this looks pretty good. I would say this: if it can close over 2081, is particularly by the end of June, it may dispel a lot of downside that might be inherent coming from the fundamentals.
I mean, did this rush up after Yellen's speech? I mean, how surprising was that to you, or was it? Or
no, in fact, when they said they were going to raise
the numbers tomorrow are going to.
Pardon me?
The jobs numbers tomorrow.
I think they're important. I think they're important, and the market's made a good run, and they interpret them any way they want. If they're really bad, they're going to say, well, that just reinforces low interest rates. Let's buy the market. If they're really good, they'll say, well, maybe there's going to be a rate hike, but it looks like we've got the jobs to overcome it. Everything's interpreted as bullish in the stock market. So this is at a precarious point, though, in that we've come so far without a decent correction. We could get a nice 100-point correction and it'd bother people. That would be enough to probably get the thing down to the zero line. It really could do that. So there we are. We're finishing 5 up here on this. And just so if you want to dot the I's and cross the T's, it still looks like, to me, we need one more high in here above the high we made here yesterday at 2064.5. And that prediction there right now, based on this being the low, is let me move this over. It's not gonna let me do it. Sorry. 2075. So we have a fifth wave projection at 2075 that will come down only if this wave 4 breaks down here at 2047. This will come lower. That would be our first wave 5 target. So until 2047 is broken, the odds are we're going to come back up there. But today is the end of the quarter. It's the end of the month. It's a really big close, guys. I don't think they're going to collapse the market today. Okay, they'll at least wait and see what happens tomorrow. And I don't think the market's really going to, if this thing comes off 100, 150 points, my MACD is going to hit the zero line. It's going to mark a completed wave 4, even though it's not going to be below the 1802 low we were looking at back here. It's not going to be below this 1802 low that we set. But it can still print to the zero line if we drop 100 points. So, gold. I'm going to go to gold, and I'm going to shut up, Dwayne, because I may have to run.
Yeah, buddy.
On gold, we've been talking about this being a major low down here. I want to see it take out 1310 to confirm, and then I'm gonna really increase my positions in here, which right now are
we've been having such incredibly, incredible swings on our Concierge Trade Alerts and our One Trade a Days. We've been having just some beautiful, beautiful opportunities in crude, in gold, and in bonds. So I'm interested to hear what you have here on what you're looking for on gold.
Well, I think what gold has done here is, I personally think it bottomed. I had a signal in here that told me to buy it when it got over 1100. And this is another confirming signal. I won't go into it, but this thing here, this colored orange bar, of course we had one here and it promptly reversed. They're trying not let it go higher here. And if you think about it, if the dollar made this kind of turn, the euro's been going up while gold have been trying to take down this. So this is all with the grand plan of the bankers. They cannot keep people's faith in paper currencies if they're going to let gold go up. So this thing is already depressed much lower than it should be. And if you look at it in other currencies, it's near record highs in most other currencies right now, whereas you look at it in our currency, 1920 was the high, and we made it down to 1040 something. So we're still very low, but we're the only ones that look like this. I'm going to figure out a way to plot it against. I can construct a chart. It will take me a little time, but I'm not going to do it now. I'll show you what it looks like against the euro, against the Chinese yuan, against the Australian dollar, against the British pound, and you'll see that this is nowhere down here in a wave 4. It's up here in a wave 3 still, or a wave 5, depending on which chart you look at. So this is the only chart, one of the only charts, really. I don't know about every currency in the world. I'm sure there's some, but the major currencies. This is the one that shows gold not going anywhere, when precisely it's costing people overseas more than they've ever paid for an ounce of gold today. So the only thing you can say is, and if you trade this every day, and I trade it almost every day, you can watch when they come in at 7:20 in the morning. They're usually on a mission, and you can watch if they don't get a hold of it on the close to try and hold it back. They'll try and come in Asian hours and slam it 10 or 20 bucks when there's no volume in there. They do that really actively, but they're going to lose control over this. They already have in other currencies, but not ours. So I don't know. Maybe we should be buying gold on the London's metal exchange in pounds.
Well, now, you read about China. They announced early in the week that they were putting $100 billion into their stock market. Did you read that?
I didn't, Dwayne. I've been
okay.
I haven't been focused too well this week. I've had some problems with my
Remember, some brokers got together a while back in China, and they pulled together a pot of $20 billion, and they put it into the market, and the market burned through it in about 2 hours. Now, or no, wait, I think it might have been 20 million. Okay, but the Chinese government, this time, they're coming in with 100 billion, equivalent of 100 billion US dollars. And so the Shanghai, or either the Hang Seng, I forget which, yesterday was up 400 and something points, which showed an infusion of some of that capital. But today, there wasn't anything dramatic going on in any of the Chinese markets. So it's going to be interesting to see if they deploy all this capital and it's unable to do anything. I mean, they still have the ghost cities. China's got more problems than you can shake.
Oh yeah, they do. And I think the world is that's what those financial meetings were about.
Sticks? What do you call them when you throw those sticks down and pick them up? What's that called?
I used to make fun of my sisters playing it, but I don't know.
I think it's called I Ching or something. Anyway.
Oh, okay.
That's more. They got more troubles than you can shake a can of I Ching sticks at, if that's what they're called.
But I think what's happened is the world's financial heads are so worried about China. Mm-hmm. The Chinese have devalued their currency, pretty much, and they're concerned about everybody getting afraid of China, so they're going to try and accommodate them in other ways. The world's concerned about China now. And so the bankers are going to do everything they can to patch this thing up. Well, China, if they put that much money in it, if you look at this chart, we peaked in June of 2015, or was it July? June of 2015, we peaked at 716, then we dropped in here to 355. So we dropped 50%. Does this look like it certainly doesn't look like a market to me that's going to crash from here, okay? It just doesn't. It's already had pretty much of a crash. Okay, am I going to try and make money to the short side? Absolutely not. Can it go lower? Certainly. But I don't see anything here compelling from a price standpoint that tells me that they're going to get it higher, other than the fact that if the bankers of the central bankers of the world decide they're going to make this thing go higher, they'll do everything they can to support it, and they'll eventually get their way. I mean, it's hard to bet against those guys. They're going to be right until they're wrong one day, and they'll be wrong really big. But until that time, it's hard to fight them. And so the world's worried about China. They'll defend these lows at 356 all they can. They're going to defend this 355 level, and with everything they got, you can bet they will. They won't want the market to close under this level. So,
I mean, this was such a clear-cut case of, as Greenspan once put it, irrational exuberance. I realize he was almost a decade early with that statement, but in China, you had, rice farmers out in the rice paddies with their smartphones, buying and selling stocks, because for a while, everything did nothing but go up. You just bought it, it went up, and you made money. Unfortunately, they thought it would last forever, and not enough people cashed out in time, and so now the market's not only broke, but the people are broke. And the government, after they throw $100 billion at this thing, I don't know what kind of shape they're going to be in. Joel had commented that gold versus the dollar, the U.S. is dead last in the race to debase. And John B. says, the thing about China is you can trust any of the economic can you trust any of the economic reports they make for concern that they are cooking the books, so to speak? Man, I feel that way about the U.S. economic reports.
We do it too, but they've been doing it for years, and they're better at it. They're much better than we are. So I agree. I agree with that, and I think if you look at China,
in America, you have the option to believe the report or not, but in China, you must believe. It's the ideology. It's that you must toe the party line. If we tell you this is the numbers, you got to believe it. And if you dissent,
Well,
if you
there's no other thing
disagree,
you
if you
can
write a
believe.
column, if you try to get on the internet, and the internet is just getting creepier and creepier. I read that article yesterday on the show. They are literally closing that country off, an island unto itself, as far as the internet goes. I mean, they've been clamping down on social media for a long time, but they're just about to totally cut it off from the rest of the world. Now, people will always find ways around that. Just like during the Arab Spring, people found ways when they shut the internet down there. People found ways around it. But it's going to become increasingly difficult for us to really know what's going on over there, and increasingly difficult for the people in China to know what's going on out here. Now, there is a class, and there's an acronym for them, and I forget what they're called, but they are the Chinese children of the multimillionaires and billionaire Chinese who have left China, and they've come to live here in the U.S. And there's certain parts of Beverly Hills, L.A. that they occupy, certain parts of Washington State where they occupy. There's an acronym for them, but they are these young adults, these teenagers, early 20s, the children of these ultra-rich Chinese people who have sent their children abroad to America to live, to get an education, and they have more money than they know what to do with, and they conspicuous consumption doesn't even begin to describe what they drive, what they live in, what they wear, what they spend for lunch. They are an elite class among themselves. They hang together, they party together, they live together. It is an amazing, amazing story. And I'll have to dig that story back up. I read it, probably a month ago. And it's not something that just happened. It's slowly been happening for several years, but it's gotten to the point now where it's a thing, and journalists are starting to write about it. They're moving into certain communities and just driving the price of real estate into the stratosphere. Why? Well, because they have virtually an unlimited allowance. Dad has so much money that, if they want to spend whatever they want to spend, it's okay.
Right.
What a horrible way to raise a child.
It's not reality for 99% of us, right? So I think,
but it is their reality. I mean, now,
did it say did it say they're I bet a lot of their parents are, party chiefs over there.
Right. Their parents are still back in China. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, I would think, so if you look at what's gone on in China through the years, you know that everything is favored toward the ruling class. Those kids are probably offspring of the ruling class in China.
And also the manufacturing giants, the guys who,
I don't think you get any of those jobs without being in the ruling class. They pretty much run the country.
Yeah, the elite class. And I guess you have to be born into that? Is that how that works?
Yeah, or you have to become somebody in the people's, what do they call their thing? I know they have the People's Bank of China, which is the Chinese central bank. They always put people in there when really there's about a handful of people relative. Maybe there's 1% of the people in that group that are, involved in it. They don't have a plan for China. The Chinese Communist Party has a 5-year plan, and that's what they present to the people. They just tell them this is what it is. And they had that plan, back in the mid-2000s. And the plan was to build all these cities in China. They were going to, because they had all this money coming in, they didn't know what to do. They built these cities. They built condos. They built apartments and homes. Ghost cities.
Yeah.
They had
60 Minutes did a big piece on it.
You know, the first time I heard about it was a guy wrote up about it and said that he literally went over there. He lived in the Orient anyway. He went over there and he said, we went to some of these cities, and he says, remarkable how much money they spent. They're all brand new.
And they're
he said, but we checked the power meters on them. The power meters were still set at 0. They had not used any power, and some of them had been built for 2 to 3 years just sitting there. And that was
the only people there are some security guards and some maintenance workers to water the plants and mow the grass. And, I mean, complete malls empty. You know, high-rise apartment buildings with penthouse apartments and luxury apartments, empty. It's eerie. It really is. Now, they finally put a stop to that. They aren't building any more of those.
Well, I think they're having a cash crunch, to be honest with you. I mean,
John comments that it's making it harder and harder to not be real cynical. Yeah, well, it is what it is, man. We just got to deal with it.
Well, there's a lot of things. So here's just looking at the Shanghai Index here on a monthly chart. This is the month, this current month. It's looking pretty good to me that they're going to strengthen it over the short term. Now, if the central banks get their way, this thing will come back over 500. But we're sitting here. Oh, sorry, Dwayne. I can't turn my headphones. I haven't figured it out. I'm a smart enough. I can't turn my alarms off on my CQG without turning my headphones off. I just need to get my kid in here.
I can't hear him. We can't hear it.
Okay, good. So if you look here, this is the month of March. We were predicting the low down here at 362. The actual low was the actual low is 360. Okay. Predicted low was 362. The predicted high was 404. The actual high is 412, and it just took that out. So it's come from the low back to the high, and it looks pretty good. This is the end of the month, and so we'll see what happens next month. I think, it's certainly going to project higher next month. So count on that. So they'll be getting their way to some degree on this. So back on gold. We had a really good move up in gold. We're pulling back here in a fourth wave. This isn't the exact count, but it's as close as I can get. Certainly we met enough to make a way for a minimum retracement down here. And we almost got to the 382, which was at 1205. And I think we got to 1206, guys. So we got, we held 12077. I'm using the June contract. So we held right in front of the 382. And we're trying to bounce. And I got conflicting viewpoints here on this thing. This is the wave 4 bounce, move down off the highs. Are we going to make that fifth wave down or not? I don't know. So far, we're just breaking below the 50% point. We get below this, close below this. Wait a minute. I've got these things reversed. I'm sorry. This is the 618. That's a 50% point. The 618 and the 382 are flipped. How did I do that? Anyway, 382 or the 618, I'm sorry, is going to be at 1228. So that'll be an important number here to see if we can hang in there. It got below it here, but came right back above it. So 1225, 1224, they break it through that. We could come on down and make the fifth wave here. And so then I can turn it around like this and say, but wait, let me put it this way. I've got opposing views on the intraday charts. So it's very very messy in here, and I'm not trading real actively right now because it's not clean. The only thing that looks clean on it is my daily highs and lows. It pretty much stays within them on gold. So I like buying the dip in gold. The question is, and this has been the biggest rally we've had, I think, in a long time, years. So if that's the case, I want to buy this dip wherever it terminates. And so far, it's holding the 382 on this bigger picture. It could get to the 50%, which is like 1179. And the 618 is way down 1154. So unless it breaks 1150, I'm not concerned about it. This is a buy zone in here. Just like I was telling you about crude, this would be our buy zone, ideally around the 50% point, which is 1179. I don't know if we'll get it. But I know I want to get long. I had a pretty big call option position, and I whittled it down to 20%, and I've increased it by 10% just during the past week. So I'm still a lot down from my initial position, I mean, as far as my percentage of what I'm holding. But I want to increase it. I'm still giving it more time to correct. I think it's a good buy. I think the call options on this pullback will be worth holding. I wouldn't buy anything closer than the September options. The call options in September, I wouldn't buy anything closer than that. That's the, I wouldn't buy anything. I want to be at least out until September, December, maybe March of next year. Those are the ones I'm looking at. I already have September and December's, but and I do have some Mays, but not a big position in them. And if we make if that's the end of wave 4, then our fifth wave projections on this are, sorry guys, I'm having trouble with the chart. I think I know why. I'll try and fix it. 1340, say. When we get through that, we'll be looking at 1422. That's enough to make the options, go up 10, 15 times if you buy them out of the money.
If we get gold back
and
around
they
that
come
price,
into
an
the
awful
money.
lot of people are going to get awfully excited.
Pardon me?
I said a lot of people are going to get awfully excited.
Yeah. I think you're right.
I read a headline the other night by, I'm trying to remember, one of the big gurus. He said, sell your house now for a profit and put it all in gold. I'm trying to remember who it was. I don't know if it was Soros that said it. It might have been.
I'd like to see Soros do that. I'd like to see him put all his money in gold. What a foolish thing to say. It's probably the right thing to do from a money standpoint, but why risk the whole lot under anything that you even think is 100% chance?
I agree.
Right?
That's his
I mean,
advice.
he isn't
not
going
mine.
to. There's no way he's going to do that.
No. And I don't remember if it was. It might not have been him. It may have been someone else. So, Joel had a question. Do you always do your retracements from the low of the recently counted wave versus the low of the move?
I do them both. Let me see if I can find an example for you. To keep things simple here, I do both. But you can see on the gold chart here, I do it from the high. This is counted as a third wave up. This is counted as a fourth wave down. So I do it, but once I get to here, I'm going to use the high. But notice I didn't come back to the low. I came back to the beginning of the third wave. Now, what I do, and I have on my weekly report that goes to a handful of people, I will do it all the way back to the low, which down here was this level. So if I wanted to overlap, because I have those numbers on my sheet, but I try and keep it, this is really the predominant, this is the primary count that I'm using here. But just to see if there's a coincidence, I will put them in here. Let me just do it right now, and I'll show you what I mean. It's a good question. That's where I find the Elliott wave useful. Very useful in knowing where to count the fibs from. So here's a second set, so to speak, okay? And here's the fib numbers over here. So the first one we did down to the 0 set to the bottom of wave 2, but going all the way back to the bottom of the move, then we've got this 104.58. So here they are. Here's the 382s. In this case, they're usually not this close, but we have a 382 range in here, and the 382 is 1205 down to 1195. You can see them here. So this is a cluster range, I like to call it. They're equal retracements based on different legs. But if this was going to be an ABC up, and we don't go back up for wave 5 and collapse, then these numbers are going to be very useful to us to watch, the bigger ones. But you can see how close they are. Here's the 618 range, the 50% range, the 382 range. I use them both. But when I have to pick and choose whether I'm going to get an entry point or find a place that I want to make a play on, I'm going to use the primary wave count, which is what I had up here. I believe this is going to be a wave 4 down, and therefore I want to measure it. If it is, it should hold in front of one of these guys that are on this first count and not the bigger count. But when they're together, and sometimes you'll see the 382 match up on one with the 50% of the other, and they're like within $1 of each other, then you're going to have two different people or two different sets of groups that are measuring those fibs differently. And one of them applies to one group, one applies to the other group. That's more people that are going to take a shot there if the market holds. So I hope that answers your question. I use them both, but I pick a primary intraday count to use. And so that's what I do. I'm going to talk nat gas real quick, guys. We talked about nat gas before, and we talked about how it doesn't like staying under $2 very long. When we go back to when it first started trading, when was that? 1990. Okay, how long have we spent below $2? Let's put the line in here. Well, that's not it. Come on. I'm going to click it there.
While you finish up on nat gas, I'm going to step away for just a second, then I'll be right back.
Sure, you bet. So looking at the $2 range on nat gas, this is really worth noting. How much time since inception has this thing spent under it? Now, the first few years in here, this were just normal. I mean, nat gas rarely got higher than these levels, like the $2.80 to $3 level. And then it started poking its way up here. Once it did this, how many times have we spent under here? Hardly at all. Hardly at all. That's the $2 mark right there. So if you call this a value buy, yes, the real question is, when are the value buyers going to come in? Well, it looks like they're coming in. And if I go ahead and take the weekly chart on this thing, I'm also counting this to be a fifth wave on it. And this was counting, this was counting this as a wave 4 up, but it's gone too far. So it's completed an ABC down to this 161 level. And now we're on the way back up. So looking at this move up off the 161, it's still counting this as a third wave, which kind of surprised me. I think there might be a problem with that. Let me get rid of this thing. But this looks pretty bullish. This could be a fifth wave instead of a third wave, and then we correct this move. And we'll draw the retracements from this high once we finish it back to the low. I won't draw it down to here. And I'll look for those major retracements at the 382, somewhere between the 382 and the 618. And based on the way this thing's taken off here, it's pretty impressive. I like it. And I'm not going to get in here unless I have a signal to buy it. And I don't have one right now. But I'll be willing to buy a pullback in that gas finally. And we're just, it's a 196 right now. So you know, how far do we need to go to make it exciting? If it starts to take out, when am I going to feel like I'm going to miss the move if it starts to take out? The first level is going to be 207, then 218. Gets above 218, is probably going to make a pretty good run. So do I get in here? No. Would I get in above 218? I sure might. Would I start to look at over 207? Yes. Would I buy a pullback? Yes. So it looks to me like nat gas put the lows in, maybe for years. And it did not give us a completed 5-wave move down. And that's okay. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, it's starting to indicate price-wise that it's got a decent shot coming out of here.
I'm back. Joel comments, I like the fact that the 382 is near your wave 4 and the impulse wave 3. Joel's asked, could the recent rally be value buyers hedging against hurricane season?
Well, it could be. It's a little early for that, but it could be. Yeah, it could be. And it could be just value buyers. We talked about this before, that if the market stayed under $2 for very long, they'll start to cut back their gas production. And I know there's a lot of individual guys that got into this thing early and have pretty good money in their fields. And I know personally a guy who gave all his people that he decided he had made a lot of money in the run-up, and he gave all his people time off, but he kept paying them. But he said he didn't want to produce any oil under $2. And he sent them home, sent them their paychecks, said he wasn't going to give away all his oil and gas for, cheap. And he's mainly a gas producer. And then when prices come back up at a certain level, and I'm sure he'll have them back going at 2.5. I mean, that's what he did the last time. When it got back over 250, put everybody back to work. But he kept paying them because he had a really good business, and he got in really cheap when they washed everybody out in the gas patch. The banks make people sell out at the lows. The banks don't know they're the lows. The bankers really aren't good traders. They're not. I mean, I think they've hired some more sophisticated people, but they used to always pick the bottom by forcing people out and making them sell. So anyway, this guy had enough cash built up, they couldn't mess with him. So he just kept paying his guys because he figured it'd come back in a few months, and it did. And those people got, several months of pay without work. But what did they care? That makes loyal people, that's for sure. So,
hey, here's some.
I think that's all I got.
Yeah, here's something for you to think about between now and the next time we get together. I had an interesting email the other day from a gentleman who is deaf, and he says, I've read your website and I've watched your live trading room, and I'm curious, is there some way that you could train me? And I emailed back to him. I said, that's the first time that question has been asked of me, and I consider it an honor that you've asked me to train you, and also a challenge for me to figure out a proper way of doing it. My wife said that she thought there should be some kind of mechanism for him that when I spoke, like if we were in one-on-one mentoring sessions, that when I speak, it would convert it to text on the screen on his end. So, in other words, rather than me try to type out all these instructions, because I'm not that great a typist, I could just talk and it would show up as text. Like when you talk into your cell phone to send a text message, and it twists it up pretty good. You have to go back and correct a lot, but wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? This is someone who really is intrigued, and they need a job, and they want to learn how to earn a living. And what I would consider that one of the great accomplishments of my life, to train someone who is hearing impaired. I guess that's the politically correct term. I don't know if deaf is offensive or I don't know.
I don't think so.
I have a sister,
you know what?
or
Let me
I
say
have a niece. I have a niece who is hearing impaired in one ear, and she can sign and all that, but she can also carry on a normal conversation. It's just that when she talks, you can hear that little bit of a something in her voice that you hear in people that are hearing impaired when they talk. It's barely perceptible with her. So I think I should talk to her because she's probably well educated in that field as to what is available, what kind of equipment.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
You know, that the political correctness stuff is really,
ridiculous.
Right. I mean, I guess you have to be that way. But
I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Quite frankly, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I'd rather punch you. I'd rather punch you in the nose than hurt your feelings, unless you're a terrorist, and then I don't care what I hurt. You see what I'm saying? I mean, because if I punch you in the nose, that'll heal, and you'll get better. But if I hurt your feelings, man, that could drive a wedge between us that lasts a lifetime. So.
Well, you know what? I think that never used to happen so much. I think what's happened is that the mere fact that you mention it, that we feel like we should mention it and say that, probably makes the people feel even more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Whereas if we, I think God is colorblind. I think he is not really concerned with the outside. I think he's so non-judgmental. I mean, if they've got everybody sitting here thinking that we've all got to think the same, well, we don't, and we're not the same. None of us are the same. And the way they've got us in a box here, it's hard to really feel like you can be yourself. I mean, the whole world, I think, pretty much on the outside, the culture is compartmentalized, that people think they have to act a certain way here and a certain way there, or to fit in here, or to fit in there. They got to have multiple personalities or something. Those things build conflict in our lives. How did I get onto that? I don't know. I shouldn't have got there. But those things make you unsettled in your spirit because you know and God knows who you are and how you feel. Does that mean you say everything you should say when you think of it? Absolutely not. But we need to be aware of that we're all called to be who we are. And God made us all different. He didn't make us all like robots. This whole thing would be easy if we were all like robots, right? And none of us want to be a robot. Right. So the political correctness thing's gotten way out of hand. I mean, that's how they shut people up and shut the other side down. That you're afraid to say anything or do anything that someone might be deemed offensive. The whole thing is, we got to be a little more thick-skinned, all of us. That's all. I better get off. I don't want to go crazy here. I don't know about you, Dwayne, but I do a lot of work at the end of the quarter and the end of the month, so I'm going to be up all night here trying to figure out what I want to do here.
All right,
and
buddy.
You know what? It always helps to have a plan. It does.
Listen,
and you look back on it and say, boy, was I stupid or boy, was I right, but you learned something.
Well, listen,
either way.
I sure appreciate you coming and spending time with us. And, of course,
I'm glad to be here, Dwayne.
It's every 2 weeks, but the door is because Burwell, his wife's father is, I think, terminally ill. He's had to travel to Maine. His wife's in Texas because she has a job. Burwell's retired, so he's in Maine taking care of his father-in-law. He's unable to be with me every other Thursday for a period of time, and so, that invitation, if you ever want to do every Thursday, the door's open for you. Okay, well, maybe I can fill in a little bit here, Dwayne. I won't
won't commit to next week just yet because
Okay.
I've got a couple things hanging out
No, I can
as
I can
far as
dig it.
that goes. But I'll keep that in mind. Now I'll
Okay.
let you know if it looks okay.
All right.
But hey, thanks for everything, everybody. Those
Hey,
are great
thank you.
questions.
We
Okay.
appreciate you very much. Have a great week,
Thank you,
and we'll
Dwayne.
talk to you real soon.
Okay.
All
Thanks,
right,
Wayne.
buddy.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Okay, let me mute his mic so he doesn't have to be concerned about any background noises. He's logged out. No, he hasn't. So I'll mute it. There we go. All right, so he's safe. Okay, now, Alan, first let me answer your question that's been percolating. If you'll notice here, March 30th, that was yesterday. The swing high in the S&P 500 yesterday, Wednesday, the 30th, was 2064.50. Okay? And then last night at 6 o'clock, 1800 hours Eastern, if you follow the red line on my cursor all the way down, you'll see March 30th, 1800. At 6 o'clock, it officially becomes, the market closes at 5 p.m. Eastern, reopens at 6 p.m. Eastern. That officially became the Thursday session. So from this candle forward is the Thursday session. And from that candle backwards, what you're seeing is the Wednesday session. So yesterday's swing high was 2064.50. Today's swing high so far has been 2059.75. Today's swing high 2059.75. Okay. So does that clear that up for you, Alan? Type me in an answer and let me know. Yes, Fred, absolutely. Ed's a great guy. He's a fellow believer, and he really knows his stuff when it comes to markets. That's many years of, he was a commercial crude trader for many years. While we trade contracts of crude, he was actually trading boatloads of crude for refineries, etc. And now he's retired, trades his own account. So today's swing high, 2059.75. So Alan, I think you're still there. Can you just type yes into the chat box? Or if you have an additional question regarding the high, yeah, it says you're still logged in. You might have stepped away from the computer, but Richard says, I think the next 3 days should be very interesting, important reversal potential. Thanks, Ed, as always. Well, I wish I'd have read that to him before he left, but thank you for that, Richard. And Richard, you had typed in earlier, and I read it to the audience, but then I noticed I guess you had to log out and log back in. But I shared with the audience that your son-in-law had did a documentary on marijuana called The Union, The Business of Getting High in 2007. And you said to check it out. It's very interesting. It won some awards. Where can we check it out? Is it on Netflix? Is it on the internet? Is it on Amazon? Where would we find it? So I'll wait for Richard to answer that. And I'm still waiting on an answer from Alan. Let me send a text there to Alan and see if he's still there. Because I hate to move on from this page until we clear that up. Okay, well, all right. So we had a CTA to buy 20.57 and a quarter at 20, and we hit a swing high of 20.59.75. So that gave us a 2.5 point move from the trigger to the high. It also gave multiple entries. Multiple important prices, important areas are almost always tested. There is a reason why this entry might not have been the best of entries, but these entries are, and again, the market is amazing in its ability to tell us things if we know where to look, how to read the chart, and those are the things that in the mentoring program I'm able to share with you as we do our one-on-one sessions. So we've now started to sell off in the S&P. So let's go back to our chart here, which lists the Concierge Trade Alerts sent out last night. Thanks to Lars, if you're in the audience, Lars, for the heads up. I had failed originally when I sent out gold to roll forward. Now, it didn't change things much, but we rolled from the J contract to the M contract. I had originally said to buy 32, sell 26. Rolling it forward, changed it to buy 33, sell 27. But thank you very much, Lars, for bringing that to my attention. Anytime, guys, any of you subscribers, if you notice an error, whether it's in the math, in the spelling, in the contract month, anything at all, please let me know, because a lot of people are depending on that data all over the world, and if it deserves a retraction or a resend, and it's not like I hit one button and send to everybody, because different people are segmented up into different lists, so it is time consuming to do a full resend, but something such as what Joel pointed, or Lars pointed out last night, was absolutely worthy of a resend. And so not only did I resend to everyone, I also put a post on the Google Plus page, emini.cfrn.net, that said there was an error in the gold data, check your email. So you got two emails last night, one with the alerts and then one with the rollover information for gold. Okay, now on the short side of the S&P, we were looking to sell 20.50.75, and so we're just now getting down into that territory. $20.50.75. Now these numbers, of course, Concierge remain valid until tonight's numbers come out, and the one traded days remain valid until the one traded days come out tomorrow. Trade alerts are emailed, one traded days are published. They're published to one of our sites, eminifuturestrading.com. And whatever market you're subscribed to, every Monday morning, Michael will send you a list of passwords. There's a different password for each market. And for those of you that subscribe to all of the markets, you'll get a password for each market. All right, so as we broke through, we put in a swing low at 48.75. So from 50.75 to 48.75, that is exactly 8 ticks. If you're trading the 2420 blueprint, 8 ticks is what you need to reach your goal for the day. I would suspect that this trade may have more to offer on the downside. If we use the horizontal line of my cursor, if we go all the way to the left side of the chart, I'm pointing out here, here, okay? And so if I lay my horizontal line across there, that tells me that 2047, let me bump it up so it says 2047.50 is potentially a likely place for this move to take us to. Could it take us lower? Yes, it certainly could. Now today's Thursday, and on Thursday, that's the day that I put the current weekly trading zones up on the chart, okay? I don't do it earlier in the week out of deference to the partners, because on Monday morning the partners get this week's weekly trading zones at 6:15 a.m. Eastern, which gives them plenty of time to get their charts all set up and ready for trading for the week. Okay. Now, the highest weekly trading zone for this week in the S&P 500 is 2061/62. 2061/62. Now, it's not unusual for price to spike the highest zone. It's not unheard of for price to even trade outside of and above the highest weekly zone. However, what we have learned through historical observance over the past, well, all the way back to December 14th of 2009, that's when we first published the weekly trading zones. Michael and I had been trading them for a while, and we decided to share them with the partners and members of the community. And so that was the first day we publicly published them. We have found that, and we didn't set out to do this, again, we discovered this fact by historical observance. By close of business on Friday, even if price were to go up here and do all kinds of whoop-de-doos and backflips, by close of business on Friday, price will be at 2062 or lower. Have there ever been weeks that price closed above the highest zone or below the lowest zone? Yes. However, I don't have to take my shoes off to count the number of weeks that that has happened. I've lost track of what the exact number is, but it hasn't been very many times. And so when you consider the number of years that we've been at it, we do it every week, weekly trading zones, so that's 52 times a year. Oh, let's see, from 2009 to 2015, we'll see, December this year, I guess we'll make 6 years. So, but we're not to December. So right now, if we just went to December of 2015, let's see, from 09 to 15, oh, that would be 6 years. Yeah, so 6 times 52. So it's like 350 weeks. So anyway, it's just another fun fact to know and tell. So price ran up, tagged the highest weekly zone, and then sold off, leg, retrace, leg, retrace, leg, retrace, and then we didn't put in a lower low. And when we don't put in a lower low, that tells us that, well, the market may be about to start putting in legs in the other direction, because the market's always trying to draw legs in one direction or another. Leg, retrace, and because we didn't put in a lower low, we now see that it's going leg, retrace, leg, retrace, leg, retrace. And when this low right here was taken out on the way down, that was a pretty good heads up that this was going to be more than just a simple retracement. In other words, leg, retrace, leg, retrace, leg. As soon as it broke this low, it became more than just a simple retracement. Okay? So, that's where we stand right now, today, on the S&P. Okay. Hey, Alan N., did you ever make it back? Because I wanted to make sure you saw the difference. I know you were confused by the swing high price. You saw a swing high price here, but because you're relatively new with us, this is yesterday, this is today. Okay, I see you're logged in, but I guess you must be away from your computer. All right, well, let's move on. We'll go, oh, no, I need to finish with the zones. Okay, so 62, 61 was the highest weekly zone. And then we have 46 slash, well, 45 slash 46. Now if we scroll to the left, let's get rid of last week's weekly trading zones. And let's scroll all the way back to the 27th so that we can put a little arrow, if I haven't already. 27th, 24th. Okay, yeah, so this green arrow right here, where I have this green candle where I have the yellow arrow, you'll notice the date is the 27th. And you'll notice that if you look at the bottom, that's the 24th. That's the final candle last Friday. And then this is the first candle this past Sunday night when the markets opened at 6 p.m. Eastern. Okay? So what did the markets do? They immediately ran up, hit a weekly trading zone. We had a trade alert to buy 33 1/4. The first leg was good for 3 1/4 points. Price dropped back below the trigger, and we overshot the zone. That'll happen. Zones are an area. There was some good momentum in that move, and we ran up 7 1/2 points, and then we sold off. Now, zones are always an area. When price hits a zone, one of three things will happen. The most common thing is consolidation. The second most common thing is rejection. And the third most common thing is, on an hourly chart, it will look like a hot knife through butter. It'll look like it just whipped through there as if it wasn't even there. However, that sets us up for the next trade, because typically what will happen after a hot knife through butter, there will be a retracement back to the zone that it sliced through. It will then consolidate and then make its next move. What it's doing when it's consolidating is it's resting, it's storing up energy for the next leg or the next move, and it's making its decision based upon the buyers and sellers in the marketplace, whether its move is going to be to the zone overhead or the zone below. Okay? And so the next zone on the way down was 2033. Now, I had put this red line in here to make a point earlier in the week, but I'm going to just go ahead and get rid of that for now. 2033/34. Oh, wait. 45, 46. Oh, okay. I already did 61, 62. Okay. And then 45, 46. And then 33, 34. Okay. Let's get this right. So after 45, 46 comes 33, 34. Okay, there we go. 33, 34. Okay, perfect. Now, one thing, I do on Sunday night, I do the Concierge Trade Alerts before I do the weekly zones. The reason is people are waiting for the Concierge Trade Alerts so they can get their Sunday night trade in, make their points for the day, and go to bed or go spend time with the family. The weekly trading zones take quite a few hours of work to do, and so I do the alerts first, then I do the zones. So on this Sunday night, you'll notice that this buy alert was right inside of a zone. Later in the week, rarely will you see that happen, because all trade alerts after that are going to respect the zones once they have been determined and published. Okay? All right, so under 33.34 comes 24.25, which would be here and here. Now, see how nicely as price, consolidated for about an hour and a half in the zone. Remember, consolidation is the most likely thing to happen in a zone. Look at each one of these candles is a half hour. Look at all the time it consolidated. Okay. Then it tried to make a run for the zone overhead. There just wasn't enough energy in the market. It reversed, sold off, consolidated here for about 90 minutes, and then it dropped to this zone, spiked it, but closed above it, opened, and then made a run zone to zone. Now, we have traders who simply trade zone to zone. That's their thing. That's what they do. So from 25 to 33, that's 8 points. Okay. Now, if you take 2 points a day out of the S&P, 5 days a week, that's 10 points. This one move for our zone-to-zone traders, they picked up 8 points. From 25 to 33, 8 points. Also, if they then sold this short, either here or here or here, with their stop just on the other side of the zone, they were rewarded with another 8-point move back down to the zone. So these two trades here were worth 16 points. Now, there was some good momentum to the downside, so we overshot the zone by a little bit. That'll happen, okay? Don't be surprised when it does. Zones are an area just like Fibonacci is an area. Yes, Fibonacci puts an exact price on the chart. Our zones put an exact price on the chart, but from historical observance, you'll often see that they turn right at the zone, and other times they overshoot the zone, and sometimes they'll actually trade a little below the zone, okay? So you have to mentally have a little bit of flexibility if you're going to trade the zones. But once you get the hang of, 8 up and 8 down, that's a week. That's a week and a half of trading right there. Especially if you have graduated to the 10 contract level, that's a real nice week. Okay? All right. So below 24.25, I don't think we need to go any lower, but I will. I'll go down to 2016. 2015/2016. Okay. Now, here price, was attempting to reach, but there was just too much bullish pressure in the market, and we never got any closes below this close right here. We spiked a little bit, and then we came back to the zone. See, we consolidated here for 30 minutes, part of 30 minutes. And then on the way back up, we consolidated for 30 minutes, and then we got our move on. And our move on went from 25 to 83. That's another 8 points. So for the zone-to-zone trader, there was 8 and 8 and 8. That's 24. So anytime you want to look at an old radio show, charts that I put up daily, which recap Concierge Trade Alerts, 1 trade a day alerts, all that stuff. Anything that's new and fresh and happening, you'll find at emini.cfrn.net. If you want a personal mentoring session, you go here and you book it 12 hours in advance. Okay? It's important because once I look at my calendar around, I come in the morning and I look at my calendar, and if whatever is showing on my schedule for that day, then I work my schedule around those people who have booked an appointment. So if you book later in the day, in other words, at 12 noon, you book a 4 o'clock appointment in the afternoon, there's a good chance I might not even see that because it clearly says on the mentoring page, please allow 12 hours advance notice. So please do. Okay, this was an example of rejection. Okay? Now, this is an example of hot knife through butter, right? Remember, there's only 3 things that are going to happen. Consolidation, which I've shown you a lot of. Rejection, which we have here and here. And then the least likely, hot knife through butter. But remember what I said? When you get a hot knife through butter, that prepares us for the next trade, because when we get a hot knife through butter, we believe that price is going to come right back to that zone that it sliced through. And sure enough, it set up a beautiful trade that went from 2034 to 2045, the next zone overhead. So from 34 to 45, that's an 11-point move in the S&P. That's a week's worth of work in one move. Okay? And as we move on through the week, we come up and we tagged yesterday the highest weekly zone for the week. We don't have anything any higher than that. And so we believe, now we have jobs report tomorrow, and Fridays can be very volatile days. It could send the market substantially higher, and then it recovers over the course of the day, comes back down. Could send the markets lower, and then as the day progresses, they climb back up. Just those numbers come out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern, before Wall Street opens. So if you're trading pre-market, please be aware that at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow, there's going to be job reports, unemployment numbers, and those are big ones. Those could really rock the market. So you'll be sitting there just trading along, everything's nice and quiet, and then all of a sudden, wham, the market just goes crazy, and you're like, what happened? Have we been invaded? No, we just got the unemployment report. Okay, and so price hit the highest weekly zone, and then it attempted to come back to this zone, but buying pressure came in, and not surprisingly, because if you'll look left here, look at the horizontal line of my cursor. See, buyers that bought here, they made a nice profit. Buyers that failed to buy here got in trouble with their boss because they missed this beautiful move. And so as price comes back down into this area here, they're going to be quick to take a position and go. Why? Because if the move's going to happen again, they don't want to get left behind. Now, one of the worst reasons for taking a position is fear of missing out. There are 4 fear-based factors for taking a trade. There's the fear of losing money. The first one's the fear of being wrong. then the fear of losing money, then the fear of being embarrassed, and then the fear of missing out. Don't allow any of your trades to be fear motivated. If they are, go back to the simulator. That's a psychological kink you got to work out before you go live if you want to be successful. Okay? Well, maybe I'll just get lucky. Well, maybe you will. I hope you do. But then you might not. Okay? So why not get it worked out in sim before you put your real money to work? And then you're still going to get stomped out. There's no escaping that, okay? But it doesn't have to be a pandemic, okay? It can fall in the natural order of things. It can line up with your defined edge that you've created in the market, okay? All right. So now we can go to the YM. We got to move through these pretty quickly at this point because I got mentoring sessions coming up as I speak. And we want to get through here. Okay. Let me scrunch this up a bit. I won't have time to adjust all of these today, but I will get through each chart and we'll look at the Concierge Trade Alert for today. Okay. All right. The YM by 17,640. Okay, 17,640 happened right here ish. 17,640. Hell, it happened somewhere up here. More like there. Okay. So not a lot of room to the upside, but it did get up there. So was that 1640 or 41? It was 1640. Okay. Now, with the YM, which pays $5 a point, you need 20 points if you're trading the 2420 blueprint to be done for the day. Swing high was 55. So if I write down 17,640, 17,640, swing high was 55 here, so that's a 15-point move. If you only took 10 out of the 15-point move, that would be 50% of your daily goal. You've got 10 trades to hit your daily goal. This one ran all the way up to 59, and so that was 19 points. And so between the 15 and the 19, there was an opportunity to hit your goal for the day. On the sell side, we had 17,595. And didn't we reach that? We did. 17,595. Actually, we reached that earlier in the evening. Did we not? Let's see. 17,595. Okay, so we bought 17,640. We're selling 17,595. Okay. All right, the first trigger that went off, we need to drop a vertical line. The alerts went out last night at 10:25 p.m. Okay, so that's going to be 22.25. So we need to drop our candle at 20, or our line at 22.30. Okay, so at 10:25, the alerts went out, and then the 10:30 candle, boom, took you down from 95 to 80. So there's a 15-point move. There's no ticks in the Dow, just points. It's a 15. All right. And then important prices, important areas are almost always tested. One should see where the natural place for the stop is. This little move here only took you down to 87. So that's, there's 8 points there. But there's more to come. Now, without being stopped out, we had an opportunity at 15, at 8. And the swing low, which hit to the money last week's zone. And the swing low is 564. So from 95 to 65, that would be 30. And so that's going to be 31. How many do you need? 20. The market made 31 available on that move. 15 on that move, 8 on that move, 31 on that move, 15 on that move, 19 on that move, and on this move, it gave up 73. So 95 to 75 would be 22 more. That'll be a 22-point move. So, ample opportunity for everybody either selling at night or buying in the morning or selling in the afternoon. If you've chosen to trade the Dow, if that's your instrument of choice, then there was your opportunity. Now, I haven't got my Russell data turned on yet, so I would typically go to the Russell chart at this point, but my Russell data is not running on this chart, so we're going to go straight to crude oil, which is GCLK. And we'll highlight what happened there. Again, the alerts went out at 22:20. So we're going to drop our marker at 22:30. And we were looking to buy 38.20, which is right here. Important prices, important areas are almost always tested. So we're buying 38.20. Okay. So let me write that down so I don't forget. Okay. All right. On the first move up, this candle took us to 38.38. Now that's 18 points. How many points do you need if you're trading the blueprint? Just 10. Why just 10? Because crude pays $10 per tick. Remember, the S&P is 50 a point. The S&P is 50 a point. The Dow is 5 a point. Crude is $1,000 a point, but we count ticks, and there's 18 ticks. It pays $10 a tick, and so this is a $180 move. Now, as a 24/20 blueprint trader, you're looking to make $100 per contract per day. That's your goal. You hit your goal, put the mouse away. Of course, you'll learn to trail your stop over time. You won't have to use a hard target. But in the beginning, you're best served. Now, this move was a continuation move, and it actually went up to 38.46. So really what that move had in it was 26. Okay? If you're trailing your stop, you should have been able to grab the 26. Now price gets back below the trigger, and off it goes again. This time it makes 39 ticks available. You only need 10. And then important prices, important areas, and this time we hit 39.04. So that's going to be 84 ticks, or $840 per contract available. We don't get out at the swing high or the swing low of any move unless you're new and you're using a hard target. And then you're going to get out at the hard target that complies with the 2420 blueprint. If you're trailing your stop as price begins to pull back, that's when you're going to get taken out of the trade. Okay? Here we go. We get below the trigger, and off we go again. And this time we go up to 38.75. And so 20 and 50, so we got 55 ticks there, which would be $550 per contract. Okay? Simple concept. Not easy. There's nothing about trading that's easy. Anytime somebody starts telling you they found an easy way to trade the market, skedaddle. Run for the hills, okay? Because they want your money more than you want your money. True story. All right, after crude, we're going to go to the NQ. I got to really get through this. I normally have more time available, but because today's every other Thursday, I'm more than happy to give up some time to Ed, and he always enlightens us. Now, last night on the NQ, the idea was we wanted to be long at 81, short at 71. Here's 81 right here. $44.81. All right. Now this first little move up took you to 85.25. How many points do you need? Well, the NQ pays $20 a point. There's 4 ticks to a point. $5 a tick, $20 a point. With me? And so to go from 81 to 85.25, that's 4.25 points. Okay, so you're not quite there yet. Plus, you won't get out at the exact swing high. And based upon the placement of your stop, you may just be in for the next ride, which, important prices, important areas, takes us all the way up to 95.25. So we were buying 44.81. Okay. And from 81 to 95, that would be 14 points. So 14 times 20. You can do the math. 14 times 20. That's what it's available. Will you get it all? No. You'll get part of it as price retraces and you're stopped out. Being stopped out with profit is a good thing. Okay? Now, this hit 85 so far, so that's another 4 points. Okay? And then we were looking to sell 71. Okay? If you sold 71 early in the evening, there was a little meat on that bone. Let's see just how much. If you're sold 71. Okay. First move down didn't take you far, 67 and a quarter. Okay. No reason to be stopped out on that move. And your swing low here is 62 and a quarter. So from 71 to 62, we're going to just call that, we'll round it down and be ultra uber conservative, and we'll say there was 8 points available. How many do you need again? On the NASDAQ, you need 5. That gives you $100 per contract per day. So we had multiple opportunities. Now, if you were late in the day selling 71 over here, okay, which I would not have been in this trade because the stop does not look good. You will learn with me in our one-on-one sessions how to spot what's hot and what's not. So for the purpose of the recap, I'll call it a stop out, but I'll also say that it was a trade that did not offer the proper risk-reward ratio, and so I would have just shied away from that. Okay? All right. Coming up next is gold. Gold has been pretty awesome of late, as I was mentioning to Ed. Scrunch it up so we can see the whole picture. I mean, look at these moves. OTADs, CTAs, just points, everywhere points. Now, the alerts came out last night. That's not even an alert. Oh, that was when I was mentoring with somebody yesterday. Okay. So, last night, we were looking to gold, and I had to correct it. Remember, I sent out a correction, and so we're using the corrected numbers. We were looking to buy 12.33. I don't even know why that line is there, because the alerts went out at 22.30. Which is back here. Oh, I'm on the wrong chart. Let's try the right chart. GGCM. That's why I had to send out the updated numbers. Okay. And so all this stuff kind of becomes dead wood. It's all been recapped and posted out on the Emini page, emini.cfrn.net. So I'm just going to make it all vanish. Okay? All right. So now we're on the right chart, right month, and let's drop our line at 22.30. And there we are. Okay. So we dropped our line at 22.30. And we wanted to buy 12.33. And so if you were a buyer, 12.33, this is what it looked like. $12.33, where are you? Oh, you know, by the time I sent out that correction, it was later than 22.30. So I need to know when I sent that out, because obviously with GGCM 12.33, Buying 1233 wouldn't have made any sense at all. I may have still jumbled that up. Now you can buy 1233. Oh, I see what I've done wrong. How about I go to the right 2230 on the right day? There we go. Now I feel less ashamed. Boy, something was not looking right there. It's called getting on the right day. Okay. All right. So 1233. Wherefore art thou? $12.33. Okay. So if you're buying $12.33. All right. This first swing high takes us up to 37.80. So that's from 33 to 37.80. That's 48 ticks at $10 a tick, minus however much you were trailing your stop. Now, if you were trailing your stop pretty good, or by a fair distance, or using the indicator set, however you were doing it, if you did not get stopped out on this pullback, okay, I mean, if you were right on top of price, okay, that's fine. You got out with a very nice $200, $300, $400 trade. But if you were trailing more loosely, then you had an opportunity at this, which was $12.39, and so that was 60 ticks. And if you're one of those who really trails way back, or maybe you get your stop at break even at some point and you just wait for the fireworks, this thing actually ran all the way to $12.42. That's $900 per contract available. Okay. Now this looks all very simple, and it is simple, but I fear that it looks easy. It's not. Okay. Don't go away with that misconception that, oh man, that's easy. It's not easy. The trading part's easy, but it's the getting your emotions in check. That's the challenge. Big challenge. Now this swing low did not, it needs to go one tick below the trigger to reset. It did not. However, this one here did. Okay. All right. And so the swing high off of that one was 12.35.30. So that would be 23 ticks or $230 per contract available. And you might go, wow, $230, that's hardly nothing. Well, if you've graduated, if you've done your work and you've graduated as a 10 contract trader or 20, however large you want to grow your business, you know, you take that out times 10, that's, yeah, pretty substantial. And is there volume to support it? You better believe it. We're talking about gold here. Okay. All right. One last market real quick. Bonds. Bonds. Okay. Now, we got to scroll back here a tad. Now, this is an OTAD, and remember, an OTAD is good until the next day when the OTADs are published. All right? But we still got to drop our dividing line for the concierge trades here at 22.30. This is an OTAD trade, okay? Those are published, not emailed. Now, what were we doing with bonds last night? Bonds, the deal was to buy 164.11. Was that possible? It was right here. Okay. That's 12. Okay. So if you buy 164.11, the swing high on that move. Now this 164, that hit 164.11, it did. So that might have been a stop out for you, okay, based upon how you, whether or not you took the trade, okay. The risk profile on that was a little heady for me, but you know, if you took it, worst thing that happened is you got stopped out. And you are going to get stopped out. So sooner you accept that, the simpler things become. So if you buy 164.11 and you get up to 164.24, that's 13 ticks. Well, 13 ticks doesn't sound like much, but when you consider that each tick pays $31.25 per tick, then it actually does become 13 times 31.25 equals $406 per contract. Okay, you're not going to get out at the swing high, but as it pulls back, no reason you might not walk away with $200-300 and or still be in the trade. That's a possibility too. Okay, so that's what happened on bonds. The sell side of bonds, let me take a peek at that. 163.03, and that did not come into play, and so we don't have to computate that. One other market, the final market, soybeans. Let's spread this out. Let's drop our marker, 22.30. Okay, all right. And so last night, soybeans, the idea was to be a buyer at 9.14, which we barely touched. And if you got triggered into that one, then that was another one of those nasty old stop outs. The sell side, we must have had some kind of a report today. And typically we don't trade economic reports, so I'm going to have to do some checking. But the sell side on soybeans was 9.02, which is right here. Was there a grain report today, guys? Was today WASDE? I thought WASDE was on Fridays. So from 9.02, we dropped all the way to 8.97. Well, from 97 to 02, that would be 5 points. Now, soybeans pay $50 a point, just like the S&P. Okay? Now, this was a fast, hard move down. Okay? And price closed here, gapped back to open here. That's just odd. That's some kind of report. But then it ran down and it did the O2 again. And it got all the way down to 896. And so we had a 5-point move. We had a 6-point move. But if this happened during an economic report or a grain report, we stand down on grain reports, and so we would not recommend that you be in that trade, as beautiful as it looks. Just too unpredictable. Okay. Now, there are those who trade news and trade news well. And if you do anything well, I encourage you to do it and do it well. We don't have that forte. Our forte on news is to climb up into the bleachers, watch the action, and when the market returns to its normal activity, it's back and forth, bobbing and weaving, plain vanilla. That's us. We're plain vanilla traders. All we want, give us $100 per contract per day, and we're happy as we can be. Now, is there much more to be taken from the market than $100 per contract per day? Yes. The problem so many traders make is they go after the big bucks before they learn how to make the little bucks. Okay? Start small, trade small, go easy, go slow, learn, increase not only your skill set, your mechanical ability for clicking the right button at the right time, the right place, grow as your account size grows. You'll grow psychologically, mentally, spiritually, and your account size will grow. Maybe not as fast as you would like. Who doesn't want to be rich overnight? Of course, everybody does, but we also know that every time we've ever tried to pull that, it came back to bite us. Did it not? So you're going to have to work for this. It's not simple. It's not easy, but trading can be simple. Jim says it was the big quarterly, and Alan, thank you guys both. It was the big quarterly planning intentions report. Gotcha. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Guys, I got to run because I got mentoring sessions. If you have been on the trial, tonight is partners meeting. Okay? 9 p.m. Eastern every Thursday night. This is where we come together. We're not trading. We're answering your questions and discussing anything that you want to discuss. From trade setups to indicators to anything, whatever it is. This is where we put it all on the table. No one is there but partners. When you type into the chat box, no one sees what you type but Michael and I. So you have anonymity. No one's going to judge you. Certainly not Michael and I. We're not going to judge you because of some lack of knowledge that you may not have yet. We're not there for that reason. We're there to help you grow, to help you to become the trader that you want to be. That's our reason and our purpose for being there. Okay? So, come with that in mind. Now, a good idea is to sit down this afternoon and make a list of questions, things that you're wondering about, because as the discussion is unfolding tonight, you might forget. You might forget some of the important things that you need an answer to or want an answer to. Here's how we do it. Once we open the meeting at 9 p.m., we open with a word of prayer. After that, we take all the questions that have been emailed in. We do those first. Reason being, some people want to get their question answered and go to bed. They've been partners for a long time. They just have a couple questions. They don't want to sit through the whole 2 hours to get their question answered at the end. So if you email a question in to support@cfrn.net, you will get your question answered up front. We will also answer all questions that are typed into the chat box. Every workshop ends with the same question. And this is the final question every Thursday night. Are there any more questions? And when the chat box goes silent, we say good night, we tell you we love you, sleep good, and we'll see you in the morning. Now, that's for partners. If you've been on a trial this week and you like what you see and you want to be a partner and you want to enter the mentoring program and you want to be in the live trading room and enter the mentoring program and have access to personal mentoring sessions and all that being a partner entails, you should have received an email telling you how to do that but sometimes they get eaten up by the spam filters or whatever, or it may be that you just didn't get one. If you send an email to support@cfrn.net, we'll send you an email explaining everything it takes to become a partner and what you need to do. Or you can call 949-42-EMINI. 949-42-EMINI. Now, because it's still relatively early in the day, if you take action from the email you already got, or if you call us at the number I just gave you, or send us an email at the email I just gave you, we will have time to pull your paperwork together, process everything, issue you your user ID and password for the website, and you'll be able to participate as a partner in the Partners Workshop tonight. So if you have any questions about anything at all that I have covered, get a hold of us, support@cfrn.net or 949-42-EMINI. Thanks so much for tuning in. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.